Kill something.
Cruising in my lane fast, call it high speed. I've been working hard, yeah, I've been working nightly. If you think you'll win, not likely. I be taking shots, yeah, cold-blooded, icy. Watching numbers grow is what I call sightseeing. In the front row, run it up when they hype me. The following grows, they know how to ignite me. Call me CEO, I've been running right, see. And I ain't playing games, I create my own lane, making pleasure out of pain, turning losses into gains, I'm the boss, I'm making change. I've been rocking this exchange, popping off and risking things, gonna make a f***ing name. I just wanna be famous, but I don't want that cheap fame. No, I'm not that vain, I just wanna be greatness.
Hey, what's up, guys? And today we've got JL Warren from the channel Bridge the Divide. Azzo's here as always. We're going to do things, the way we usually do them. I'll talk for a couple minutes here and let some people show up that's going to show up. And then we'll get right into some conversation and find out more about JL Warren.
All the dirty little secrets.
Yeah.
Except the beard secrets. We've already been through those backstage, so you guys were screwed.
Yeah. Yeah, we learned a lot about you, Azzo.
Yeah, JL informed me that I'm supposed to be growing my beard on my chin, not my ass. So yeah, I got to start over.
It helps, and then when you decide to break,
yeah, I've already braided ones on my butt, and I thought they were looking pretty good, but now I got to get a wax. Oh, where's Earl when I need
start
her?
all over? But yeah, so we have been working, trying to contact people and get guests to come talk to us, tell them about themselves and the things they do. And today we were lucky enough to get JL to come hang with us and talk a little bit about some of what he does and his perspective on this whole, I guess, religion thing that seems to have become popular at some point.
Oh shit, don't get me started.
And that's our show, folks. Thanks for stopping by. Deuces.
Yeah. So how's it going, JL? How you doing?
It's going good. Just busy as can be, because I finally found like a good equilibrium between my regular channel and my podcast, my duties to the podcast that are run, the horror film podcast we run. And so balancing two channels is always really, really tough. There's a lot of, due diligence and stuff that, like research and things that have to be done. And, I finally found a balance, but now that I have that balance, now I'm not overworked on certain days, but now I just work steadily through the week. So I don't really have a day off. So I have like, my schedule is just packed. And so I just move from one thing to the next thing. And so, but it's fun, it's a blast. There are worse problems to have than being busy doing what you really love. So I really enjoy this stuff, and to have these conversations and have a blast and hang out with people in the chat and with y'all. So, but yeah, just busy, I have new video dropping on Thursday because I got back in town from the eclipse, went to travel to Texas for the eclipse, and that kind of put a dent in my week because I was out for 3 days. So now, but I'm back and, just carrying on as I'm carrying on.
Yeah. So, for, anybody who isn't already subscribed over at JL's channel, there it is in the bottom of the screen. I've also he's linked in the description and stuff. I didn't actually come across the horror movie side of it until after I had watched some of your content. Whenever Azzo first had put you on the calendar, it said JL, and I was like, I kept having to go back. I said, "Who is JL?" And I was like,
"Who the hell is JL Bridge?"
Yeah.
Or the old one, JL Truth, because my very first video that I ever did when I started this one, because I started the channel a long time ago, like years ago, as kind of like where to put my short films and my filmmaking stuff, but I never really knew what to do with it. So when I finally started, it was like 2019, I was like, you know what? I was a fan of Team Skeptic, and I'd met Team, and he was a great dude, and he kind of gave me some pointers, and I met Johnny O from the Plot Hole. And they were like, I got to get this stuff started. So when I kicked it off, the very first video I did was on JM Truth, was on his stupid Superman video. After that, people started for like a year. People called me JL Truth. And so I was just, but you run with it.
So
it could have been worse. It could be, JL bitch.
So that's actually interesting because
it should always be worse, JL. I've been married 3 times. I know.
Whenever I first started really watching YouTube videos, Team Skeptic and Red's Rhetoric and channels like that were, I'd kind of picked up the flat Earth thing was big at the time, and it was they were just polluting YouTube with it everywhere. And then I found these channels that said, hey, no, we're going to explain to you why all those things don't work. And that's really kind of where it all started, that eventually went down the whole rabbit hole into like, oh, there's a whole atheist activism scene out there that I didn't know anything about. And then I started seeing, clips of Hitchens and some of those older debates and things. And that's, it's neat that you say that, because Team Skeptic was one of the first channels that I watched regularly.
Right. And when I kicked in, it was the same thing. It was when I really got involved into it, it was Flat Earth was the big thing. And so what got me as a creator, the very first channel I really started watching heavily was Simon Dan. And so I was pretty much kicked off with Simon Dan. That led me to FTFE, and then FTFE led me to Team Skeptic. And while watching that stuff, and then looking for, kind of like, building my kind of like awareness of the YouTube communities. Then I came across the Atheist Experience with run by the ACA down in Austin. I was like, oh, so they're in Austin. So I got really heavily into them and their shows, Talk Heathen, Truth Wanted, and all their programming, and been a fan with them, fan of their stuff since then, and gotten to know a great deal of them. Been fortunate enough to work with them on a couple of things, and so now just being a part of the community and learning so much from them. But yeah, it was Flat Earth was just rough, and I was like, do I want to do Flat Earth debunking? Is that something I want to do? It's like, no, I really don't. I think I did one Flat Earth video, and I did it because Nathan Thompson pissed me off with the whole the accosting kids at recess. And I was like, I was like Rowan in Viva La Dirt League. I was like, I want to punch you, but I couldn't. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do a Flat Earth debunk. And I debunked some old Flat Earth stuff. And I was like, this is so, I can't do this. I'm going to go back to doing atheist content and telling people why their gods don't exist. Just being the God killer.
At the time that I discovered it, I was really big into learning a lot more about the cosmos and stuff, and had read a couple of Neil deGrasse Tyson's books and things, and I kind of considered that too. And then I was like, well, there's these guys are doing a great job of it and stuff, and it's not really my wheelhouse of stuff. And then as I got more involved in the atheist community, I realized that I had a unique situation of where I come from, and the population where I live is almost exclusively young Earth creationists. I live right down the road from Ken Ham's boat, and
I had the pleasure of touring the monument to human stupidity out there in Lexington, and wow, I see you have an idea in your mind as to what you will see when you go there. And they take you on the little shuttle ride. I don't know if you've been, but they take you on, you get on a little shuttle and then you drive down. It's like fucking Jurassic Park. Can I curse? Is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like fucking Jurassic Park. It's like, dun, 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 and then you're like, well, and then there it is. Like, oh, it's like, And then you go in, and it's this massive walk. You got to walk through the entry deal, and you finally go down. There's the boat. They got to set up their little garden all around it. And you go in there, and it's like, what am I going to see? Because it's enormous. And I give them this. The quality of construction is Disney level. That's the quality. It's impressive how much money. It pissed me off even more knowing that a good portion of that money came from the state, came from taxpayers. Right. And I'm like, the state subsidize this crap? It's like, what? So I go in there and I'm like, it is so dumb. It is so unbelievably dumb. And I'm like, these are just lies, like outright lies, like everywhere. And I'm like, there's like, and I mean, and then I found the plaque with the mention of ancient aliens. And I'm like, I wanted to punch myself in the face. This is so stupid.
Like they built that ark. It was almost like they built the ark based on some kind of fairy tale book, don't you think?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like Jason Jacoby in there. I walked up and was like, that is one big pile of shit. It's like, it's crazy. Yeah. It's like, that is like, no, that is not true. But, nonetheless, but I went in there, I walked the whole thing, did the whole, all the levels of it, and, took video of the whole thing and did commentary. It's just, it's awful. It's just awful.
Yeah. So, like, one of the things that got me about the boat thing is that I come from a poorer area of Kentucky, and I'm northeastern Kentucky, about as far as you can go. And when I seen like how Answers in Genesis had come in and promised the town all these things, they would see all this revenue, and they built highways for them and gave them all these rebates on the land and everything. And then they turned around and tried to screw him on it by, at first selling it to himself as a nonprofit, and just the things that they tried to do, and some of the things they did succeed in doing.
Right.
And then not to mention that they packed that son of a bitch plumb full of kids every week and set and make them repeat after them to indoctrinate them into the same crap that Ken Ham walks around spouting. And that just, I found it offensive to the point that it was one of my first videos.
The one thing I can say is that when I went, I wanted to go at a peak time. So when I went out to West Virginia, when I went out to Ashland for the Chili de Castro Chad Goo fight, that never happened. I wanted to go out there and met Chad, met a bunch of people. Met Aaron Reese, who's a good friend, who's one of the co-hosts on the podcast, Irish Demon. And so we hung out, and eventually I hit the arc on the way back. I was like, okay, now it's time to head back to Oklahoma, where I live, equally as as red, if not more so, and as poorly educated as what you were talking about. But I decided to hit it on the way back, and when I went, it was on a weekend, and I wanted to go at the peak potential time. And I am happy to say that they overbuilt for that thing. The parking lot is Disneyland style, but there was barely there was barely anybody there. I think the reality of it is that thing is a monument to their echo chamber, because the vast majority of people, even Christians as well, they recognize this as culty, nonsense, fringe belief stuff, and people are not going. So, and I found out later in an investigation that early on when it started, that Ken Ham was specifically targeting churches and bringing churches in, or church congregations in, and basically giving them either discounted rates or letting them come in free so that they could take pictures for promotion and say, look how packed we are. It's like, no, you didn't. You set that all up for the marketing aspect to be like, hey, look how amazing this is. It's like, no, it's all bullshit. So
Well, they did the same thing with parking, where they parked everybody in one area and made it look like it was full.
Right. I drove in there.
It was just a little square.
I drove up, and there's like, this is a giant parking lot, and there was nobody here. There's like 20 cars. How are they maintaining this thing? How are they doing it? And most of the little side attractions were all shut down. They were all closed because they didn't have anybody to man them. So like the zip line attraction and all the other little like game things they have going on, none of those were open. The only thing that was open was the walkthrough of the Ark. And the Creation Museum, which when I saw, nobody was in there. Everybody wanted to go to the Ark and see all the animatronic Noah's
Right.
family and dinosaurs and crap.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a hell of a thing.
It absolutely is.
There's not really much more to say about it.
Well,
It's,
I'd like to know how many, like, say, atheists paid for this, like in the first year it was open, because everybody was doing videos on it. I mean, Erica did that, like a 2 or 3 hour
Right.
one with her mom. You know, I mean, obviously Bill Nye was there, but I'm sure they paid for his accommodations when he was there for that. But, you know, if you could just, Google it, you'll see all these atheists that are doing, debunks of it. And it's, like, why would, and I can understand why they pay for it. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, I cannot fathom, just even for the experience, spending, what is it, like $50 or $80 or whatever it is to
I
go.
think it was like what did I remember? It was a while ago. So it was either 65 or 80 for
Right,
the deal. I think it was 65 because I didn't do the Creation Museum. Erica and Aaron Ra and a number of others have toured the Creation Museum,
Right.
and I felt that they did a perfect job doing that.
Yeah.
But I hadn't seen a lot of like in-depth Ark walkthroughs. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to check out the Ark. I'm not going to pay for the stupid creation museum. It's dumb and people understand it. So I'm going to go through the Ark and just see what the level is. And I just did an honest critique. Both, I was like, oh, wow, look at this thing. There it is. And then I walked in, did my whole tour, and then walked out, gave my final thoughts. But yeah, it's the biggest issue that I see that when it comes to a great many of the fundamentalist, I would say the fundy evangelicals, of those branches of the various denominations. The issue that I see is that the vast majority of them legitimately believe that atheism itself, that atheism predominantly is predicated upon an understanding of science. That when we learn science, when we understand these fields, we understand evidence, we understand these things, it invariably leads us to becoming atheists. And that's not the case. I've had to explain in great detail, which disturbs me a bit, but I've had to explain in great detail to a number of the religious people that I've spoken with that I understood these things when I was still a Christian, when I was still in the faith, and that the faith that I was in, the Methodist branch that I was in, we understood that the evidence goes one way and the evidence indicates this, but we also understood that there is no logical contradiction with the existence of this creating entity and the evidence being true. It's like you can reconcile the both, but these individuals seem to be incapable of doing that, which really bugs me. And it's weird because I'll ask them, I'll be like, hey, is it possible that this entity could exist and all these like abiogenesis, evolution, Big Bang cosmology, that these things are true by the evidence and this thing still exists. And what we're seeing is the effects of what it's doing. And they're like, well, I guess it could be. It's like, okay. So you can reconcile this, like, no, but the Bible says, and then that's what they dive into. It's the cult manual. It always comes back to the cult manual. So that's why I spend a lot of my time in my activism, not just fighting for the separation of church and state, but also I spend an inordinate amount of time trying to help evangelicals and fundamentalists understand what atheism is, because too many of them think that we are some boogeyman that is hiding under the bed, with a shirt that says reason and logic on it, waiting to steal your kids from you. It's ridiculous. It's like, no, we can coexist. It's like, but you need to understand like who we are, like what it entails. And it doesn't entail that, science is bad or like the science is of the devil. I mean, there's a reason why they push that thing is like the whole meme of the devil hiding fossils to confuse man. There's a reason for that. It's an anti-intellectualism position. They don't want people to understand this, so they fight They fight tooth and nail to keep people as dumb as possible, and that's a bad thing.
Yeah. Education and fundamentalism aren't good bedfellows. They and like I said, it's not an accident that Ken Ham put that stuff where he did.
Right.
The population of young Earth creationists in this area is ridiculous. What I get a lot of here is it's like Southern Baptist, but a Southern Baptist brand of fundamentalism, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, and that goes in two ways. You've either got the Reformed Baptists, who hold to like the 1689, or you've got the Independent Fundamentalist Baptist, the new IFB, the new Independent Fundamentalist Baptist. That's the Stephen Anderson, Bruce Mejia side, and then you've got the real psychos like Greg Locke, who are too extreme for the other ones, and they're just like, they do their own thing, try to go with what's popular. The whole like this revival in deliverance gospel, which is just freaking insane. I'll tell you this. When Steven Anderson, when that monster tells you, this is a message to Greg Locke if you ever happen to see this. When Steven Anderson tells you that you're wrong, that you're not a Christian, you are on the wrong side of history, my friend. You are on the wrong side of history. So, when you're too extreme for even Stephen Locke is like, this is so it's wild. But I mean, it just gets me that they don't see that all these divisions in their ideology, all these subjective interpretations, and they don't see that for the evidence of what it is, that this shit is made up. So
yeah, and for me, it's when I don't know, whenever I first realized that I was an atheist and that I wanted to engage in conversations with some of the people around me, I was like, oh, well, this should be easy. Like I can show them a little bit of stuff and explain a couple things. And it's like, so we get to the point and it's like, okay, microevolution. All right. You want to say that? We'll accept that and we'll go down that road. And then it's like, okay, now you see, but if you have that over a long period of time, what happens? And then it's just circles right back around to no, the Bible says.
I had a debate with a guy named Eric Jewell, and I don't know where he's at now, but it was actually the one time I ever got to work with Schrodinger's cat. And Schrodinger and MC Toon had a little debate channel thing they were going on. I got to debate Eric Jewell, and I got Eric to admit that we walked through the steps. It's like, is this? Is X? Do you agree to X? Yes. Do you agree to Y? Yes. Do you agree to Z being the result of X and Y? Yes. That is evolution. He's like, no. And I'm like, what? Like all of the precepts, like, you agree with that? You agree with the result of this? And I say, you just described evolution. He's like, well, no. It was like, but nonetheless, it comes down to it. They're not willing to cross that finish line, because doing so either is them, it forces them to reconcile one of two things. Either they're wrong about the Bible, either the Bible is wrong, or their interpretation of their God is wrong. It's one of the two. Something is wrong, and they have to admit. And if something is wrong with the God, or something with their interpretation of the God, or something is wrong with their interpretation of the Bible, or the Bible itself is wrong, that throws their entire worldview into upheaval. So that's the kind of the scary thing sometimes, is that we see what happens when I've seen what happens in those rare moments when somebody cannot reconcile these things, and how they just flip. Dr. Witnesser was a guy who did that when I walked him through these pieces, bit by bit, and he just flipped out and started like scream proselytizing on my channel. Like, I was having a conversation with him, and it just got worse and worse till eventually he was just like preaching, and I'm like, mute. You don't get to preach on my channel, sir. You preach on your channel, not my channel. I ask questions. You answer questions if you can. And it's like, you muted me, I win. It's like, no. It's like, it's crazy how wild it can get. But
one of the metaphors I've heard for that is the chess pigeon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what it's like. You explain something to them and get it down, and then they're like, they try to squirm, and it's all what I see happen anyway is they're like, they try to go through topic and find one thing that maybe you don't know, and then when they find that thing, they're like, oh well, then if you can't explain that one thing, then I completely win.
Yeah, I mean, it's like moving the goalpost.
Yeah.
Especially when you get into transition fossils. Well, where's the transition fossils between X and Y? Oh, here it is. Okay, so what about Y and the one you just showed me? Oh, that one. So eventually they're going to get you that you don't have that. Yeah. So we win.
Yeah.
That was the argument that I got into with Otangelo, because Otangelo was doing an AMA, and I sat down with it. I said over on Taco's channel, and I went to talk with Otangelo. I was like, all right, because I looked at the AMA. Nobody was talking to him. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I got a few minutes. Let me chat with this guy. So I sat down and had like a 30-minute conversation with him.
That you'll never get back, by the way, JL.
Do what?
That you'll never get back, by the way.
Yeah, in 30 minutes I'll never get back. But it was entertaining because I got him to admit to some preconditions, which is the logical. It's like, you realize that if we were completely wrong about abiogenesis and evolution and cosmology, this would not be evidence for your God. You understand that, right? He's like, yo, yeah, I get that. It's like, okay, and you understand that atheism is not predicated upon an understanding of science, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I get that as well. Oh, like, okay, great. And then he turns around and deep within the conversation, when he realizes he's trapped, he starts like, contradicting himself in that respect. And the worst part of it is he pretty much admitted that he doesn't need to explain the mechanistic relationship between the God he's hypothesizing and the phenomena. It's like according to epistemology, I don't need an explanation for the explanation. It's like, but if you want to assert that it is the best possible explanation, then you do need to address that, because that's the evidence we need to indicate that this entity exists, to make sure that you're not begging the question. And he gets that. He understands it. But then he'll get mad, and he'll demand that if it's not his God, then what can we demonstrate is the case? And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Then he turns around and violates his own criteria of explanation. We have to demonstrate how it is the case and show all the various mechanistic steps, but he doesn't, because his God is defined as that which does the thing. That's not the way it works. So
God magic done it.
I don't care. Like, if people listen to Otangelo, you don't need to hear any of his bullshit about abiogenesis. Don't need to hear any of his bullshit about evolution. He doesn't understand what he's talking about. It's the same old BS, false analogy stuff that he does all the time. The important thing to remember when regarding Otangelo is that he is not being honest, because he does not hold himself to the same standard that he holds everybody to atheists. And he doesn't hold Christians to the same standard, like evidential Christians. He doesn't hold them to the same standard, because he won't challenge them, because they already know Christ, so they're already okay. It doesn't matter that they believe that evolution is true. It doesn't matter that they understand Big Bang cosmology. They've already received Christ, so I don't need to challenge them. Is like, really? So the dude is, it's at this point it should be obvious. So, but
that's the thing that got me the most of whenever I deconverted is that once I started to learn things that were contradictory to what I'd been taught as a child, that the Bible was inerrant and everything in it was true, and all those things happened. Once I learned things that contradicted that in the least little bit, I wasn't happy with, but God did it, like because I knew that there was at least some explaining to do there. Right. And when I went and looked for that explanation, I found more and more. And it was just not being happy with, like just settling on, oh, well, I'm cool with just saying, this creator did it and that's the end of it. Meanwhile, I'm learning about the universe and stuff. And I'm like, well, that doesn't, this is so much more wondrous than just saying God did it,
Right.
And that's really the thing that grabbed me. And I don't understand sometimes how that doesn't grab more people. Like, when they learn, some neat fact, they don't want to know more. They're just happy with, yeah, God did it.
Well, it's the psychological ramifications of that. It's the logical entailment. If this universe that we exist in is a result of natural forces, natural unguided forces, that the structure of this universe is essentially a random event, that universes can either be structurally sound or not structurally sound. They'll either collapse on themselves or they completely fly apart. And if that process is essentially an infinite process, that it just keeps going, it's an eternal process, then there is no intentionality for humans being here. If there's no intentionality for humans being here, then we are mere products of the universe trying to like figure out our place in it. That's it. Yeah. That means that what that means that we're not special. Human beings are not special. The fact that we can reason the way we reason is not a special thing. It's just a result of the forces we are just a result of the forces that were in place at the time. Yeah. And when you take away that level of that level of psychological elevation for people, they cannot handle it, because then they're forced to essentially do the Nietzsche thing and look into the void and try to discern themselves from it. And they simply cannot do that. They can't be like, what am I amidst all of this? You know, if you, I mean, especially if you consider like cosmic inflation theory, how big the universe must be. It's like, and here I am, you know, literally by comparison to the universe, smaller than a virus in comparison to the earth itself. And here I am. And what does it mean? What does it mean? It doesn't mean anything. What it means is that you can derive your own meaning and forge your own path. We see it as empowering, is that it empowered us to take control of our lives, forge our own paths, and, you know, and explore. And so that's what it gave us. You know, we're no longer like shackled to this idea that this place is like a doormat. It's a waiting room, you know, and to prove ourselves for some external thing that we have, you know, that we can't even demonstrate exists. And when you remove that, and all of a sudden it's just them, one life to live, one set of experiences, you know, and here's the universe in front of you. What are you going to do with it? It's like, and it's an analysis paralysis. It's kind of like, what do I do in the scope of this thing? It's like, man, just live, dude. And
I think actually my question probably exposed some of my Southern Baptist upbringing, because, you know, in that we're told we're insignificant and we're awful people and all that stuff. And so maybe that's why, like, I'm like, well, that's easy to buy into, you know, I've been told that forever. So
the whole cult mentality behind there that was identified by, if you're familiar with Steve Hassan and the Hassan Bite model of authoritarian control. I mean, once you understand that, when you compare those against other ones that Christians, like even the Baptists will say, the Branch Davidians were so wrong. You know, Nixium is so wrong. The Heaven's Gate cult is so wrong. Jonestown was so wrong. But if you look, all of the tactics that they utilize in regards to the relationships the leadership has with their followers, they're all the same. You know, it all falls in line. And one of the biggest things is replacing the identity of the individual with the identity of the cult, of the group. So if you can break someone down over time, starting with children, which is abhorrent in my eyes, starting with children, you are broken. You are failed. You are not worth anything. And the only thing that can give you worth is this external figure that exists out here going, do it or I'll fucking spank you, you know? And that's how you're going to get your value. That's the only way. Your parents can't give you value. You can't give you value. No one can give you value but God. And so if you want to be valuable, to have an identity, you have to go there. And once you tear children down in their formative years, break them down to that foundation, you can fill their head with all kinds of shit. It happened to me, happened to y'all. It happened to so many people that I know who fought tooth and nail to finally realize that's not me. That was force-fed to me. You know, essentially that's that anger that they can say, oh, you're just angry at God. It's like, no, motherfucker. I'm angry at the fact that my identity was stolen from me and I never got to self-actualize until my freaking 20s. You know, I realized this is who I am. And so they took our power. They took our power. They took our autonomy. And so that's that I'm pissed about that. I was angry about that for quite some time. But, you know,
I was angry that when I got to college and started to learn about evolution and things, because they didn't teach that in schools here. It was intelligent design all the way. For real. In fact, if you remember the Scopes trial and stuff, my biology book was called Of Pandas and People. And which is like the book that was in the fucking trial. And
that's hilarious.
Yeah, so they literally taught that stuff. When I went to college, I was mad at first at, you know, like, even if they unknowingly did it, I was just mad about the fact that I'd been lied to, like, this whole time about all this stuff, that these people that thought it was okay to teach children this stuff didn't even bother to look into anything other than the Bible's true. And so yeah, I get that. I was kind of mad for a while at first too.
It's a hard thing to reconcile. It really is. I got fairly lucky because while the denomination I was brought up in was not as extreme as some other ones, I could have been much unluckier and come up with in a really hardcore one, some real red state shit. But when the group that I was brought up in, that I was baptized in, that I was confirmed in, with my pastor was very, very open with me, because really, and I got to give him this, I got to give Pastor Jack some credit here. He's been a friend of my family for a long time, and he's really more of a philosopher than he is a pastor. He does the pastor thing. He was the head of the church before he retired, but he really was more of a philosopher. And when I came to him with questions that he couldn't answer, the one thing I'll give him credit for is that he did not snowball me. He did not just be like, he did not blow the wind up my skirt. He didn't dismiss me. He legitimately, if he didn't have an answer, he would say, I don't know the answer to that. Maybe
That's amazing.
And he would suggest, maybe you can find the answer here, because he was extraordinarily well read. So even though he wasn't an esotericist, even though he wasn't like, of particular denominations, he would suggest things for me to read. He's like, go and read this, see what you think. And unfortunately, they didn't answer the questions, but it got me more information and more knowledge. So it's wild that I can credit my mother, who is still devout. I can credit her, and I can credit my pastor for really being the driving forces behind why I'm an atheist. Because my mother beat it into my head. Always ask questions. If it doesn't make sense, you have to ask. And if no one will answer you, go and find the answer. Do the work. If no one else is willing to do the work, you need to do the work. And she beat that into my brothers and I's heads. And she did that in an effort to prepare us for the real world, so that we're not taken advantage of by grifters and con men, and, to be aware. It's like, this seems too good to be true. Ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if it's to authority. Ask. Because if you don't ask, you'll never know. And and then my pastor, say, well, I don't know the answer to that. Here's more information. Maybe you can find it yourself. And it was like, great. So the honesty, the intellectual honesty of my pastor, and my mother saying, if it doesn't make sense, ask questions. Always challenge what's being told to you. I was like, okay, so I did that. I held to those, and I challenged the religion I was in, and now I'm an atheist. Now I think my mother is kind of like, shit. I think my mother kind of looks at it because, my mom's great, but she was like, we disagree on a number of things, but nonetheless, my mother's kind of like, yeah. She's like, why don't you just stop believing? It's like, no, you told me to challenge these things, to question all the time, question. And I was like, oh, I did do that. Well, shit. He's like, yeah. He's like, here I am. So,
my mom
thanks, Mom.
My mom kind of has that same reaction, because when I was like 5, she was going through nursing school. So my coloring books were her anatomy books, and nice. And I learned a lot from them. And so later, whenever people would, talk about, oh, well, the human body is just amazing, it works. And I'm like, no, it works like this. Like we understand that. And so, but my mom's the same way. She's like, well, I'm glad you're smart and you've done well and all this stuff, but damn, I wish you wouldn't have went the road you went. And because she still believes, in all of it. And, but she's proud of me anyway, for trying to do something with, with what I do, what I have learned, even if it's, to come online and discuss it with other people, aimlessly.
Here's the kicker that I found. For anybody, and this is for anybody in the live chat who's ever found themselves in a situation when you have a parent or you have a loved one who's a believer and you're not, okay, and you're trying to reconcile that. If they believe, they're like fearful that you're not going to go to heaven. It's like, well, I'm not going to see you in heaven. It's like, then you ask them flat out, could heaven be heaven for you if I wasn't there? You just ask them that. Could the heaven that you go to actually be heaven for you if I'm not present? Yeah. And then, legitimately, the answers I've gotten was like, well, no, it wouldn't be. It's like, then how can you go to heaven if I'm not there? How could it ever be heaven? It's like, oh, well, I'll just be so happy about, and then you walk through the entailments of that. And it got my mother. My mother, I don't know what effect it really had on her, but the reality of it was my mother had to reconcile this idea that either what's going to heaven is not her, or somehow she'll be deceived into believing that I'm there when I'm actually in hell. And I'm like, think about that. Think about a God that would do that, about an entity that would deceive you into being happy by hiding the fact that it's punishing me by convincing you that I'm actually there so that your heaven can be a heaven. Just think about the implications of that. Now think about the implications of you being in a heaven where I'm not present and you're aware of that fact, and now you have to exist eternally knowing that you'll never see me again. And you'll know that I'm being burned and tortured forever in hell. Think about that. Okay? How could it ever be a heaven? I mean, so obviously something is happening here. And when she really thought about that, she got really, really quiet. Because it's you get them to look at the logical entailments of what they believe, and that's the initial hurdle. Is it how can you reconcile this stuff? And when they try to, you get those gears turning. All you can do is get the gears turning. It's up to them to keep them turning. Is the whole point, right?
Yeah. I learned early on that there was no real point in trying to convince anyone of anything, other than, just accepting the things we know as fact. Right. Those things, but as far as belief, a lot of atheists argue that belief in a God is an irrational position, and I get it is whenever you lay it out logically, but whenever you have cultural indoctrination going on, is it really irrational for that person to believe? And then you get to the point that maybe it's not. Even though they have an irrational belief, it's not irrational for them to believe it when that's all they've been taught their whole life.
Right.
And as to asking questions, though, can you guess in a Southern Baptist setting what I was told when I asked questions?
I mean, I've heard just like what was it? Who are you to? A lot of pastors will quote Job. Is like, who are you to question? What is it? I can't remember the actual verse off the top of my head, but I know that there's a verse in Job. Who are you to know the mind of God? Who are you to know the mind of God? Can you do these things? Ha ha ha! I can do whatever the fuck I want. That whole kind of I remember that. Is like that was one of the responses I got. Is like like God said to Job. Is like, who are you to know the mind? Can you sprout these things from nothingness? Ha ha ha! I can do as I please. Is like. You realize it's just a justification for might makes right. That this dude is a complete asshole and being like, I can do whatever the hell I want because I'm God. Bro. And I'm like, that's not an excuse. That Job should have been like, dude, you're a dick.
Yeah.
Like, you're such a dick. And it's like, you don't even give me my family back. Now I got new kids. I don't even know these kids. It's fucked up. But
Job is what go-to.
Job is a go-to, right.
Yeah. But I was told at 5 years old that if I wanted to ask questions, I could burn in hell.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just don't even think.
Yeah.
Don't even think.
We're going to tell you what you need to know. Now color that picture of the boat and we're going to sing a song.
Oh, that is hilarious. Oh,
and go see Uncle Kenny at the boat.
Secretly as a child, I'm coloring it brown and be like, because this is the color of shit.
Yeah,
this is all bullshit.
Now, see, as a kid, I always had questions. Like, I always had doubts about some of the things, and I really always thought it was weird how they had us sing, and it wasn't enough to sing the song. You had to learn all the hand motions and things to go with it, and I always kind of thought like it's weird that they do it this way, and it seems kind of unnatural.
There's a physiological reason behind that. I mean, obviously the whole the adage that motion creates emotion. That when you're moving and you have repetitive motions like that, what it does physiologically to the brain, the repetitive motions in response to a specific activity, is muscle memory, and what that does is form neural pathways. So the more you do it, the easier it is to do it, and the easier it is for you to work along those lines. And then the singing in and of itself, obviously, music has a profound effect on people, especially it's different for different people, but I know that when I'm listening to certain styles of music, it gets me. Like I feel that, and I get it. But I listen to other music, and I'm like, this is so dumb. I was like, it just does not click. And But that's what that is like you get certain, so they understand that music has a profound emotional effect, that repetitive motion connected to that emotion right there, that's connecting muscle memory to those profound emotions. And then you just keep going through that rhythm and you get into that repetitive cycle. It's all reinforcement. That's what it is. It's just to reinforce the concept that belief in these things is a good thing. You connect the emotions, the physicality with the elation or the religious elation that comes with, or the there's a term for it, not religious hysteria, but religious ecstasy, with the ecstasy that comes along with inducing this via the music and the motion. And so you connect all that together to create this reinforcing pool, this miasma of reinforcement that makes it harder and harder to get out the longer you're in it.
I was a drug addict for a number of years, and so I became aware of some of that through that, of like, oh, I see people in religious settings that are trying to get the same effect that I'm getting from these drugs. They're trying to just make themselves feel good about everything, and by believing that these things are happening, that's what it's doing. And it was really interesting how close of a how close those two things were to each other when I was going through it, and being able to see it for what it is. So sometimes I credit that for, like, even though it was a horrible thing and a horrible part of my life, you know, I learned some valuable lessons through it. And I don't know. It nobody gets that, though, as far as like the Christians. People get it, just not the ones around me.
The impressive thing I can give you credit on is that well, I've never gone through such an experience myself, and each individual's experience is unique to them. That nobody goes through like the whole experience of addiction the same. It's not the same for everybody. Everybody has different traumas that inform the varying depths of their addiction. And so understanding this, we can help people who are addicted, but we also understand that people who are in the throes of addiction are deeply vulnerable. They're vulnerable individuals. And so, Christy, it's awesome to me that you did not, or you got lucky enough that you weren't so horribly preyed upon by those individuals who would take advantage of that vulnerability in order to try and pull you through. But you made it through. Yeah. Because some people don't. Some people get, and it literally becomes just another cycle of addiction because they replace the addiction with something else. And they just give you they give you a reasonable justification to say, okay, it's no longer this. Now it's going to be this. And that is some of the most predatory and horrifying shit I've ever come across, because with a person who is an addict, because addiction never goes away, but the person who is an addict, those things, even when you address them, they can reconcile and compartmentalize them, but that never goes away.
No.
If I have these conversations with someone who is an addict, and I start tearing down their walls, deconstructing them, then what do they have to fall back on? Because the faith doesn't address the root of the issue.
Accountability.
And so if the faith doesn't address that, doesn't teach them personal accountability, doesn't teach them that they have value, doesn't teach them that they can determine the things for themselves, not what other people dictate for them. When we address these or address the traumas, the PTSD or the other things that inform the addiction as a coping mechanism, when the faith doesn't do that, and then that person deconverts, they have nowhere else to fall back to but their prior addiction, because that's all they know. And so we end up, the faith ends up doubly screwing them, because it sets them up for failure in the event that they deconvert, and then all of a sudden they have nowhere to go but back to old habits, because they never addressed them in the first place. And that is a travesty that needs to be pointed out more.
So one thing that's common, and I'm actually trying to put together and make a full-length documentary about this, is that
excellent.
Religion Christianity specifically has opened these clinics that are faith-based. And in Kentucky, a pastor can pass themselves off as a psychologist. They're allowed to be a counselor. They're allowed to They can be a drug counselor or anything with no training whatsoever. They're a pastor. They're allowed to do it. And I want to do kind of an expose documentary type thing to show the harm that this is causing, and people are dying because of it. And I work with addicts a lot, and I see them post, it's through the grace of God that I became clean. And I say, no, the first thing they should have taught you was accountability. And you need to not only be accountable for the positive things and the negative things, the bad things that happen. Yeah, take accountability. You did wrong. But whenever you do something good, take accountability for that too. It was you. It wasn't God who made you get clean. You did it. Now, if your belief helped that or whatever, great. There's no wrong way to do it. But, you need to realize that it's you and that you're special and you did this and you have the strength to do it. And so, I'm not trying to go way down that road with you, but
no, it's great because it's teaching people that the tools that they need, that they have access to them, and that they're not, like it's not an insurmountable task. It can be done. It's hard work, but it can be done. Well, I myself, like I said, I've never been through the throes of addiction. I don't consider that. I myself in my past had a real problem with that. Had a real problem with my anger. And due to a variety of things, I got myself into the habit of choosing to physically walk through my problems instead of dealing with them. And I had a really bad habit of that. I spent a bunch of time inside and, like bad relationship. When the police officers know you by sight, when you're driving along and they pull up alongside you and say, Mr. Warren, you doing all right tonight? And I'm like, yeah, because it's the officer who's arrested you like 4 times. Yeah. That's not good. But no. I got lucky. I cannot express how lucky I've gotten in a lot of the crossroads in my life, because when it finally hit the fan and I was in legitimately real trouble, like, I finally crossed a line and I took it too far. And so I'm standing before the judge and I got sentenced, and part of my my sentencing was I had to complete an anger management and behavior rehabilitation course. And it was like 16 weeks. So I go in and I'm pissed off and I'm angry and I'm like, this is BS and it's not my fault. I walked in there just like everybody else walks in there. It's not my fault. Someone else made me do it. Blah, 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 blah. And through the course of that, there was no mention of God, no mention of anything religious. But that man, Anthony Lyles III, I'm going to give him credit. Anthony Lyles III, that man finally got it through my thick-ass head. Personal accountability.
Yeah.
Understand that it is you who is making these choices, and understand why you are making these choices. And then then realize that before you make the choice, you can make another choice. And then we walk. Yeah. And for the first 3 weeks, I was a dick. I was like, this is blah, blah. I'm just like that. Yeah. But it finally clicked. And by the end of that, I'm like, I understand now that I'm here because I made these choices. And so that brilliant man who I ran in, who I went to his class, he taught me these things. It finally opened my eyes to the stuff that nobody else had been able to yet. And luckily, I got so lucky. It was not a religious-based thing. It was just a matter of understanding what we do, why we do it, and understand that we can make other choices. We can intervene on our own behalf. And that's the key right there. And I was like, whoo! So I look back at my life and I'm like, yeah, there are so many people out there who had it so much worse than I did and got so many short ends of the stick and so many unlucky breaks. And, the hits, man, they just kept on coming. And, so I don't try to like prop myself up as a big example, but, I try to help, where others who are, where I can.
Yeah. Whenever you see somebody else dealing with the same experiences that you've dealt with, it's hard not to say, hey, I get it. And let me, just tell you a few words. I'm not going to tell you what you should do, but, think about things, and I used to have a lot of anger problems too. Actually, I read a book called A Spiritual Solution to Every Problem when I was locked up. A nun gave it to me. And, in it talked about how you can train yourself to stop and think about things when they happen, and learn how to approach things in it said from a point of love and all that, but just if you can you are able to train yourself to, whenever something bad happens, to stop and think for just a second even. And that's usually the difference between, getting angry and doing something you're going to regret, and then carrying on through it. That take yourself out of it for a moment and think. And I try to express that to a lot of people too. And I think that's a great point. And I'm glad that you were able to get past that. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, the key issue was I got, like I said, I constantly talk about how lucky I was. I got lucky that I had a support structure in my life.
Yeah.
And that's the big key, because I find that a lot of individuals out there, like too many individuals, do not have the support structures that they need in their life, whether it's their family or it's their peers or it's a group that they're a part of that supports them. Looking back in my life, I consistently had solid support structures for individuals that were there for me and helped me in these moments. And
for me, it was the atheist community itself.
Right. It was a number of things. It was the atheist community for me. It was my parents, the understanding. When I came out as bisexual, my mother was highly supportive. My father never knew, because my father was kind of a funny guy, but my mother was understanding. So I had that support structure from my mom and from my brother and from my friends who understood that. They actually knew, but they knew before I did, really. It's like, oh, good, yeah, we know you're bi. So, but I got so lucky that I had friends and I had family and I had support groups that were there, and it was like, yeah, we will support you. That's what a structure does. And it's like, so I guess all the luck in my life was spent on my experiences, because I cannot win the lottery for shit. So
yeah, yeah, and Answers in Atheism, they're talking about AA. Well, I disagree with some of the things that AA does and some of their points, and I think they don't have a very good track record of being very successful. Again, there's no wrong way to do this. If it helped you and got you away from it long enough to use your mind again and gain yourself back, then it was the right way for you, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, if I recall, Answers in Atheism, if I'm wrong, correct me by all means, but I think I was on a stream or listening to a stream with him and Dave, a Captive Desk, and they were talking about that. And see, for me, the whole AA thing is the kind of like we were talking about, Joe, earlier, taking the responsibility and the positive away from the person. The responsibility. I fucked up myself. It wasn't God. It wasn't my mom. It wasn't, and I made the choice to take the drugs.
Yeah.
But I also made the choice to walk away, not do the drugs, which I've never been, addicted per se. I drank and I'd smoked weed back in the day, but nothing, that I ever needed treatment for. And I think that's where kind of interested me with Answers in Atheism, because instead of taking God as his, and I forgot how he worded it.
Higher power.
Yeah, it's higher power, then that's what but if it works for you, do it. Get off that nasty shit and worry about the crap down the road.
I tell Christians all the time when they're like, well, I need this for my morality and things. And I'm like, then you need to keep going to church.
Right. I mean, if you need
to keep being a good person,
then keep going and keep doing it.
I found that the anonymous groups, whether it be NA, whether it be AA, whether it be OA, and a number of them. So the anonymous groups are solid because they do one thing, and that is they provide a support structure.
Yes.
They provide a community and a support structure, which is what human beings need. So human beings psychologically need these things. So that's the key. Is do you have a support structure? Do you have a group there? The problem that I see, and I see that Answers in Atheism is in a secular AA group, which is good. My biggest issue with the non-secular AAs, with the religious themed one, with the religious themed ones, is that when you understand the relationship between the individual and their addiction and what addiction is for them, from their perspective, addiction is very much like their higher power. It is the one that is in charge. It is the one that is dictating behavior. The problem is that instead of addressing the relationship of the individual with their addiction, and understanding that in actuality, it's them who has the power. They are just ceding that power to their addiction.
Yeah.
When they can understand that, which is obviously, I think, which is what you successfully done, Answers in Atheism, which is great. But it's in non-secular AAs, they replace that power. They say it's not addiction that has the power. It's God that has the power.
Yeah.
So all they're doing is replacing the structure of power in the hierarchy. They're replacing atheism with God.
Yeah.
And saying that God won't lead you astray. Atheism will lead you astray. They're equating addiction with the devil. By not calling it that, but equating it as that. So they're simply taking the power out and replacing it with another power without empowering the individual, without empowering the person suffering from the affliction. And that's the problem, because they haven't changed the dynamic. They're just changing the identity of what the person is saying
with
is what
something
is
else
charged
that's
over
not
me.
reachable. Yeah.
With something else that's unattainable.
Yeah.
We have to address the power dynamic here. When you give people fall into addiction ultimately for a number of reasons, but it all comes down to a lack of power, a lack of personal control, a lack of personal identity. They are using this to control something, control something in their lives. It gives them a measure of control, of power in their lives, because at least they can control their addiction to some degree. Okay, and that's what they're doing. That's what it is. When you replace that with God, they're still relinquishing that power. When you give them that power back, then they can do what Joe was talking about, what Azho was talking about. Then they can realize you were the one in charge all along. You had the feather. You didn't need the feather. The power was within you. I know as cliche as that sounds, but you had the power to go home all along. Never took the slippers, never took God or the addiction to do that. You can decide yourself, and then you empower them, and then they can be successful. That's the only thing that I have an issue with is it doesn't address the psychological ramifications of it.
Yeah. There were a number of epiphany moments, in recovery. And one of the big ones for me was there's a Frenchman by the name of Gabor Mate, and he's a neurologist and studies the brain in some way. I won't say neurologist. I think he's a neurologist, but he did a whole video on how the brain operates under addiction, and for me that was something that was like, hey, this is just a thing that can be fixed, and it's not this big powerful thing over me. I can change these certain things and make that change in my brain physically, and then deal with the emotional side of it, which there's a lot of that later, and that's one of the big things is taking that, realizing where the power lies. I agree.
Right.
And yeah, Mike, I think that's a great idea for a stream. We can do it anytime.
That would be good. That's a good topic. Yeah. Addiction and power and addiction, and how those two correlate, how the correlations between those relationships there. That's a fantastic convo. Absolutely.
Yeah, because we've done the first part, I think, of the addiction part until I ruined it that night.
Yeah.
Not that it was by any
somebody
means,
brought up
but
politics.
yeah, so fucking me makes a joke and everybody goes fucking nuts. Don't ever say you're an atheist who leans right. Okay, don't say it.
I am okay. It's so funny that you brought that up, because I did an AMA last night with talking to an AMA with me, and I had a long conversation with somebody who is a conservative atheist. And as far as minorities go, that's intense, because, and I don't understand, it was like this idea that we can't share space with conservative atheists. I know several conservative atheists, and while we disagree on some points, like I'm pro-choice, I'm for women's autonomy, I'm for that ability, and he is staunchly anti-abortion. I'm kind of like, okay, I understand why, and you're an atheist, I get it. It's an emotional thing. I understand what you're talking about, but we can disagree, but we can both agree on the fact that, embedding these things in a God concept is completely irrational. It's like, oh yeah, we can't agree on that. It's like, great, then we can work together. Oh, I don't know. And then we get this idea is like, oh, but I don't know. You're for abortion, man. I don't know if I can contaminate my side with your weird progressive thinking. And I'm like, it makes it tough. And so I think that the issue really lies on the progressive side. If we can be more, if progressive atheists can be more willing to not sacrifice their identity, but put their friggin' identity politics on the back burner for the sake of working together towards a common goal, like separation of church and state, which I'm pretty sure Azho and I completely agree on, is like, separate them, you know? We may disagree on whether abortion or death penalty or trans rights, or we may disagree on whatever. Okay, we can have those conversations later. Let's focus on how our government officials are trying to dictate how we live our lives.
Start with common ground and go from there.
Exactly. And maybe we'll find common ground on the other stuff. Maybe we will.
Yeah, and you can ask Joe. I'm not so far leaning right that and it's just what gets me. And I know I opened up a can of worms. This is my fault again with the politics. But I think people get so hung up on labels, and Joe was there, twice at least when I got attacked because I refused to go from being labeled Republican to Democrat. And mine's nothing more than, tradition. That's all it is. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm not going to die on that hill, but I'm not going to, worry about it because it doesn't affect how I vote. And a matter of fact, Joe, of all people, and somebody would have told me this a year ago, that I'd even think about not voting, because I didn't realize that was a choice. Okay, I don't like Biden. I'm not to start a fight with anybody. This is just the conversation, me and Joe. I don't like Biden. I don't really like Trump, to be honest. But to me, it's the worst of the two evils.
Right.
So what do? I'm going to go in there and vote for one of them. And then Joe's like, well, why do you have to vote for either one? And it clicked. And I may not go that way, but it gave me another, that whole, the false dichotomy. Here I'm thinking it's either or, black and white. And here comes Joe with, wait, it could be gray.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want to vote, but really the candidates suck. And I don't care. This is me, my opinion. This doesn't reflect Joe or JL or anybody else. But just to tell you how far I've come to even think about not voting for anybody. Because I was so, so in my mind that I am going to, vote Biden out of office by my goddamn self. I don't care what it takes. And that's just like, why? They're both fucking idiots. And I
think it comes down to the mathematics of it. Is like, while not voting is an option.
Right.
I say, and even write in voting. Write in the candidate you want. You can do that.
That's the fourth one that Joe told me too. Yeah.
You could write in. And so there are a number of options.
Right.
Either don't vote, write in your own candidate, or vote for the lesser of two evils. You can even vote specifically to keep the other person out. It's like whatever it might be. Yeah. Whatever it is, I say vote. I say vote and be counted. And the reason for that is because by not voting, then anything that comes after, then you really can't complain about because you didn't vote. You didn't have a voice. So I say that's the only key there. It's the mathematics of it. Not to mention, there's also the mathematics of splitting the vote unintentionally. It's like, because if you could have voted one way, like I really don't want Trump, but I really don't want Biden. Myself, I don't want either one of them. Right. I don't want 80-year-old men, 80-year-old white men, 80-year-old rich white men dictating how we live our lives, because the category is so separate. It's like fundamentally you don't grasp what's going on.
Right.
Okay. I want someone who understands the generations now as they are. Now, who will I vote for? Obviously, I'm voting for Biden because number one, there's the only two options, the only two viable options, and I'm not going to unintentionally split the vote and give and provide opportunity for Trump to get in. So for me, it's the lesser of two evils. Go with the devil instead of the one who's like literally being upend democracy, end it all, Christian theocracy, blah. And I'm like, no, absolutely not. So I think it just comes down to the mathematics and just ensuring that you have a voice. I'm not going to go though. It's your civic duty. It's as an American. I'm not going to go that route. Not going to I'm not going to poke your patriotism button and be like, you got to vote. But I say, play the mathematics. The system is fucked. The system is broken. The electoral college is shit. Okay, it's all fucking skewed. So the best that we can, until we change the system, the best we can do is try to work within it to game it to our advantage. And so it's kind of like you're in Vegas. You're not going to beat the house, my friend. So the best thing you can do is wait till that one hand comes along, take your pot and GTFO. I'm out, and before the house comes and gets you. So just you play the game, the best you can until we get the opportunity to change the game. So,
I agree with all that. Azho and I are an unlikely couple because
don't say couple. Not if we're dating.
No,
I'm your side chicks. Call it what it is.
I'm probably far left, close to socialism. That's right. That's where I'm at with that kind of thing, and he's leaning right. But But at the same time, I think that that's exactly what we've done is found the things we agree on and moved from there. And I don't think Azho is as right as he may make others think he is. I think he's.
Oh no! And all I've ever said, I lean. And everybody's like, oh, I'm automatically presuming because I'm pro-choice.
Yeah.
I mean, 100% pro-choice. The only thing I would add to that, for me and mine, if I have a choice, it's pro-life. But depending what the reasoning is, but for everybody else, I can't tell somebody else like JL.
Right,
my wife, having a kid. I have no fucking right to tell. First off, it's the same thing I always say, and I love it. The hardest choice a woman will ever make isn't my choice to make, regardless of what I think. And I'm not taking that away from her or anything else. Now, me and whoever I'm dating or I'm with, that's different. But I don't think it would be such an issue that I'd never talk to her again. But would be something we would have a talk about.
I think culturally, Democrat is a dirty word in your family.
Oh, I say Democrat every time I fuck.
And,
what do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
God. Oh,
and
God.
You want to be anything but that.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Come on, you fucking donkey. Where's my donkey? No, I don't.
Yeah. But
what sex was. I don't even know what
anyway, so
although JL's looking
what have
pretty
we got
good
here?
right
We've
now.
got an hour in. If I don't know that anybody will, but are you game to hang around if I open this up for anybody that wants to come in and ask any questions?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Okay.
If anybody has any questions about anything
I
or
didn't tell
talk
you,
about
Joe,
stuff.
I sent JL a message just before we went on and told him we can go as long as he wants.
Yeah.
Because there's been other times.
Yeah, no, I'll be honest with you. Like this whole session is really just a welcome procrastination because I'm editing my next video right now, and sometimes when I'm in the editing suite, I'm in there for like 5 hours, 6 hours straight, and it's just like I like that, and so this is like I get to be on a show. Save, close.
Now the one thing,
Let's do it
before we go any further with anything, because MM brought this up, and I've always, the whole Jason thing and back, because I've always. I wish I was a believer. I'd be praying, please, Jason, move. Scared the fuck out of JL. Come on, keep moving. And then MM's bringing up, she's so worried about Jason and back that you're going to get attacked that she didn't even notice she had, the epic beard, until 20 minutes later.
I love that big guy. It's
part of who you are.
It's a life size to Kane Hodder spec. So that right there is how big Kane Hodder is. And it's from Friday the 13th Part 7, which is my favorite Friday the 13th of all time. I saw it when I was like, wow, that's available to buy and I can afford it. And yes, I'm going to buy it. And so I bought that bad boy, and the mask, it comes off. It actually fits me, which is kind of cool. So the mask is completely removable. The face is all there, so it's all fucked up like that. The chain around his neck is real.
Oh, nice.
So it's all legit. Like I went for the high end version of this.
Oh yeah,
and so,
you can't skip on it.
Yeah, all the clothes and the boots and everything, they're all legit. They're all they're all weather beaten and worn and specially done. It took like 3 months for them to cast that whole thing and set it up. So I mean, the only thing I'm kind of like bummed about is that the machete doesn't come out of his hand. So it's like fixed in there, so I can't remove it. But the whole thing is set there. And I remember I did a video where I put the whole thing together on my channel. It's like unboxing Jason, and I put the whole thing together and assembled him. And normally that light in there, it's unfortunately it died, and I have yet to buy another one. But it's like a rotating light, so it looks like it's underwater. And so I had that effect going on for a long time, but unfortunately the damn thing died because it's a piece of crap. It's just super cheap. It's like $10. But I haven't bought a new one yet because I'm having trouble finding one. But it had this cool like water effect in there, like he was underwater. I thought was kind of neat. So
yeah, I think you're the only one on my whole list of subs that I found not because of atheism, because when I first came on YouTube just to find shit to watch, and I'm a gamer. But then it's like I start seeing all this. Check out the preview for this horror show or this one. And came across JL Divide.
Nice, awesome, very cool.
Oh, Joe didn't even catch that. JL Warren, by the way, Joe. Anyway, and that's how. Then all of a sudden, it's like, wait a second, this guy also has a Jason, also is an atheist. I may stick around, and I mean, you're like one of 10 people on my people who I follow. It just amazes me of how articulate you are. And I realize most of you guys do scripts. It's not like, wing it and zing it by any means, but just boom, boom, boom. Some of the information that pops off your guys' heads. Like even now, just in this little chat, we're not talking about, but it's just like all this shit coming off. It's like,
oh, thank you.
I still got, oh wait, you're an old bastard. So that's your reason. For
the first video I watched, I didn't even look at you. I was looking at the background because I'm into all that stuff too.
Yeah. Because I love horror films. So that's how I found it.
Favorite things.
Yeah, my shit is like a museum back here. I mean, there's so many varying things. I've added stuff to it. So, but there's I think I did like a walkthrough of my office one time to show everybody the stuff I had in it. And I've got so much shit that I've collected over the years. Like all over the stuff, like all over the place. And you can't see a whole lot of it, but I know it's dark right now, but you can kind of see it, but you can kind of make some stuff out, like all the autographs I've collected. I've got like H.P. Lovecraft up there on the wall who's looking over my shoulder saying, your ass should be writing. All my Carpenter posters that I love and, all my gaming stuff that I've collected. I've got.
And you see what I did? I turned this from JL to Jason because now Missing Mod thinks Jason's a special guest.
Yeah. Come on and ask him all the questions.
A couple of questions. How's life? Are you sleeping well? Blink twice if JL is holding you against your will. I love MM. Yeah. And MM is like our residential theist now taking over. She will be on the Monday.
Fundamentalist at that, but hangs out with atheists.
Yeah, and she's not normal. Clarify. She's fucking nuts. We know that, but she's not a typical theist. And she usually gets along better with us because she always comes in saying, God damn it, those damn Christians. Not that way. This is my word, paraphrasing. These Christians are sucking out, the air in my world sort of thing. It's like, but Steph, you are one of them. And it's like, well, no, not really. You're more like one of us just because we got better cookies. But she's got a great sense of humor. She does painting. She does music. She has her own channel. I believe that her and Robin are working on together. So definitely
they were on together last night.
MM. What?
Robin and Missing Mod were on together last night. We talked about climate change and abortion and a few other things. I
must have been in bed already because I wasn't feeling good last night.
Actually, what happened to me last night is my car broke down when I left on the way to the gas station.
Oh, shut up, Joe! Here comes the country and western song.
My truck
broke down. My girlfriend wants me for drugs and dick. Here it
halfway
comes.
There. Oh, seen that part, huh? Halfway there.
You caught that one, huh?
Yeah. Halfway there, Laura's like, "Oh, I left my phone at home because it's dead." Well, my phone's broke, so I was like, "Oh shit, this is gonna be when it breaks down." It broke down. We had to sit and just wait till we seen somebody we knew that gave us a ride back to the house. I got here late and was pissed off and everything else. And then I went in and seen Missing Mod denying climate change at first is what I thought it was anyway. And I was like, nah, we're going to fix this. And went keyboard warrior on it for a minute. And then I was like, well, they wanted me to come on and talk, but my kid was asleep and all that. But yeah, I had a frustrating night, and
you didn't mention Dick Waffles, did you?
No, not.
Robin must not have been around then.
Yeah, but JL, Oh wait, what we got here? We got a question for you. So
let's see.
Nope, I missed it. Where did it go?
Right there.
Okay.
Let's see. Any plans for beard decorating outside of the winter solstice? Epic as that is. Okay, so yeah,
this too.
I did the beard decorating, which I've got right here. The beard ornaments that I got that was meant for Christmas streams, and I used to when I first started the channel, I used to like color my beard. So I was coloring my beard to kind of correspond with the color of the monthly activism thing that I was supporting them, because every month I try to support a new effort, and so I used to color my beard in coordination with that. So it'd be green or it'd be blue or it'd be red or whatever. And coloring your beard is an intensive process, and it also like really, really messes your hair up. So my beard got really kind of like messed up, like really fucked up in a short amount of time because I kept coloring it every single month. Now, in public, I didn't really have a problem with it. A lot of people were like, "Hey, cool beard," because it was colored. You'd be like, my beard was red and everything. But I was at one point I had to like cut it all off and then regrow it back out because it was just so messed up because I wasn't really that familiar with beard care. As far as decorating it goes, I definitely going to keep doing the Christmas stuff. I didn't really have any other plans for coloring it again, just because it's pain. But I plan on doing other stuff, like other stuff to my beard. So, like,
4th of July with M80s. Come on, you can do it, JL. Suck it up. Take one for the team.
I kind of wanted to. I kind of like at some point I want to do like the Blackbeard thing and like tie like fuses in there and then light them. So it'd be like so I could be like Blackbeard the pirate. But
this is why why I quit growing my beard on my butt. It's hard to try to color that shit by yourself. Like, and I think
right.
Dave said,
I was a 90s kid.
And I'm not calling Joe and saying, "Hey, Joe, come over here and dye my ass for me."
I was a 90s kid. Eminem came out when I was in high school, so I had bleach blonde hair for at least 3 or 4 years of my life.
Wow.
Like bleached out really blonde to white.
The kicker will be is if anybody ever challenges me to shave it off. Because I've had it for years. Because for those who don't know the story, I worked for a company when I was living back in Texas. I worked for a company for almost 7 years, and we were not allowed to have facial hair. You could have a mustache, but you could not grow a beard or anything like that because by their internal analytics, beards made people look untrustworthy, and so you couldn't have a beard. You also couldn't have visible tattoos, and so. You can only have a mustache, and if I just have a mustache, I look like the BTK. I look like BTK if I have a mustache, so I can't do the mustache thing. So for 7 years, I was clean shaven, and then when I left that job, when I had enough and I was done, I left that job, and I was like, you know what? And I literally stopped shaving. I was like, I'm not. I've been doing this straight for like every other day, sometimes every day for 7 years. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm done. So I stopped shaving and just started letting it go, just to see how long it would get. And it eventually got to this point. And then I eventually had to like cut it back down after all the coloring. But then I let it grow out. So now it's kind of like, now it's become kind of like a signature, just my beard in that respect. So I'm kind of curious if anybody will ever be like, challenge to make JL shave it off, see what I look like underneath all this thing. So
that would be a massive fundraiser if I had to do that.
Yeah.
And no more than I have, because I've got a baby face. But something spectacular like that would have to be for
make an RFR fundraiser out of it.
Yeah,
right. Because if I do it, if I go clean shaven again, it'll take another like 2 years to get it to this point. So
and you probably lose half your subs. So is it worth it?
It probably will. Where'd the beard go? You cut off your power.
Look at it. It's Mrs. JL divide.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'll say, watching some of your content and things is I can tell that when you approach like you recently did the video on SJ's 10 reasons not to be an atheist, which was ridiculous. But your approach to these things is very natural. I can tell that you're speaking things you're not. I mean, you may have a script or whatever. That's a good idea, but you make it seem that you don't if you do. And
I do have to write it down because I do work from a script just to keep my thoughts coherent. Because if I tend to off the cuff, I tend to ramble and I'll jump from like one topic to the next to the next to the next to the next. And so that's why I don't do a lot of like off the cuff response videos. Because I tend to just go on and on and on. And people, it's like, and I don't want to like be putting people to sleep just because, of course, I love the sound of my own voice. I do. That's why I do a podcast. It's like I love hearing myself talk, but other people don't. It's like they like hearing salient points. They just don't need to hear JL going on and on and on. It's like talking in one tone. But nonetheless, I do have to operate a script. And if I could show you all of the blown takes that I have of some of the things that I say, it's awful because I'll write it and I get it where I want it, and then I start recording, and then I check here, drop the line, all like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like I'm such a discredit to the acting, to my acting, because I'll blow through like 9-10 takes in order to get that one good take, and I'm like, it's so obnoxious. But that's the way I do it.
I shoot 30 minutes for a 5-minute video. I get it. Like and then it's there's more garbage than good stuff at the end of it usually. But I mean, and working from an outline is how I try to usually do things. But I'm bad about rambling too. I'll just, especially once I start talking to someone in chat, I'll just go down that road and it'll never end. But I don't know. For me, I'm an ADD person, so your very concise points whenever you're approaching these things works for me, because
Awesome.
it's you get to the point and you're like, this is wrong because of this. Even if there's a God, morality is still subjective. You don't do the rambling thing when you're doing that kind of response and stuff. And that's really, I just like the way you do it. And, just a compliment while we're here.
Ember said Ember used to put outtakes at the end of videos as a perk to reward folks who watch the whole thing. And I occasionally do that too. I'll put an Easter egg at like the very, very end just to like throw something funny in there. And I think the only time I ever did that with outtakes was when I was reviewing that dude from I can't remember what's the name of the channel. His name is Kyle Butt. And I couldn't resist. His name's Kyle Butt, and I couldn't resist. I couldn't resist doing a number of Kyle Butt outtakes, and it was just like, and so I stacked those up. But I'll occasionally do Easter eggs if they occur to me. In that, I think my useless encyclopedic knowledge of films and television and shit like that is kind of where I think is where I kind of like World Video Bible School. Thank you, Ember. World Video Bible School. So I think I think my useless encyclopedic knowledge of television references and movie references is kind of where I kind of set myself apart, because I can think of any sequence to like go into a moment in order to kind of like, to bring up the levity, because sometimes these things can get a little maudlin. His last name is Butt. Yeah. Hello, my name is Mr. Butt.
Yeah. Kyle Butt is hilarious. I got hung up whenever I first started doing this, because it was like, I didn't want to just come on with like, say, Kent Hovind or Ken Ham, some of the just really extreme things they say and stuff. I didn't want to just be like, oh yeah, that's bullshit, like just come and point that out. But as I got going, I noticed that, AIG and Ken Ham is now homeschooling children. And that
PragerU kids bullshit.
Yeah. And it's like whenever I see that, then I'm like, okay, there's real bad things going on here. Like, they're trying to take a whole generation and indoctrinate them while they're children to believe this stuff so that they can continue to have numbers. Their numbers started to go down. So what do? They grab the children. And so then I went back and I was like, you know what? If people are spreading bad ideas, if it hits me right, I'm going to do it no matter what. And that ended up with me debating Kyle Adams, and I don't know if you know who that is, but he's a Mormon who does the flood mythology stuff, and it's ridiculous. And but
holy shit, you got John Carpenter on the stream? Sorry, it's like
what?
Hey.
There we go.
Oh.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Hey, yeah. I wanted to ask JL about Bridge the Divide.
Yes, sir.
What is the philosophy behind that expression, Bridge the Divide?
Absolutely. The idea behind the whole thing was that the thing that irrational beliefs tend to lead to irrational behaviors, and so we can bridge and those irrational behaviors create societal divisions that we have to contend with. And the way that we can bridge those societal divisions is through education, rationality, and reason. And at the end of each one of my videos, I give a way that we can bridge the divide on both sides, for both people who are atheists and people who are theists. Is like how we can do this by altering our behavior and working in a specific direction. So I understand like a lot of atheists out there will simply call out people and tell them that they're wrong. And that's great. I mean, they can do it. Like, like Aaron Rod does it, Matt Dillahunty does it, like that. And I was like, but I felt that there should be a greater effort in trying to be like, You can tell someone they're wrong. You can explain why they're wrong. That's great. But will you actually be making progress in helping our society, come back together again to unify us towards any particular goal and like that? Can you do that if you're just telling them they're wrong? And that doesn't work. What I found that all it does is it acknowledges the divide, tells them why they've created the divide, and then walks away from the conversation. I'm like, you can do more. You can do, because it is a two-way street. If we're willing to do the work, if we're willing to be like, look, man, we can coexist. You can believe what you believe. Recognize that I'm not going to agree with you. Recognize that I'm pointing out the reasons why you're wrong. But it's okay that you believe in it. But we have to remember, these societal divisions are only going to hurt us in the long run. So if we can bridge those gaps, then we can actually do more things together, despite the fact that we may disagree ideologically on some things. And so I wanted to be a force for progress instead of just acknowledging the problems that we have and being like, haha, there's a problem. Now you go deal with it. It's like, that doesn't do anybody any favors. And so I try to help us atheists. I try to help us through education and other things, and through philosophy and, other deals, to approach these things in a way that it doesn't further the divide or even, relinquish them of their responsibility. That we still have responsibility. That was the key. So that there's as much responsibility on our side as it is on theirs.
That attitude allows me to sleep better at night. I feel better about myself when I approach it that way. But sometimes it is just so frustrating, because the divide is so great. And I see a lot of Christianity as being counterproductive when it comes to help for people with mental illness and neuroses and problems, just people with problems living, that they offer a solution, but I think the solution is weak. And I think it could be a lot more powerful if we relied more on the science. And it's frustrating to see that, 50% of the country is skeptical about evolution. And I'm sure that 70 or 80% of the country is skeptical about what we can do about our brains and our lives with neuroscience, with learning about what we are. And just all the aggression and the stupid out there is so frustrating that I often, it would be difficult to adopt your position and stick with it, right? But I try.
It's tough. I found it challenging, and there are some individuals who, and I'll say there are people that I've run into on Discord, people I've run into that I've covered, individuals that I've had conversations with, that I try to have a conversation with the most hardcore, with the most didactic individuals, the people who are so entrenched in their position, because I think those conversations are the most important. But, and so when I brought on the Gospelologian, when I talked to him, or when I talked to Dr. Witnesser and people like that, those are the hard conversations I think that need to be had, and those things oftentimes go off the rails. Sometimes I get lucky. One with Gospelologian actually was pretty solid. He pretty much flatly admitted is he's Calvinistic. Some people are going to burn just for the sake of that, and all of this for the glory of God. And even he recognized the logical fallacies and all the problems that came along with that, but he wasn't willing to relinquish. But he opened that up. Now people have a better understanding of that. They know how to approach that. But people like Dr. Witnesser will just freak out. And it's understanding how much you can do. And as long as we acknowledge our responsibility, as long as we put that out there, as long as we make the effort, there's only so much we can do. I don't try to convince or deconvert anybody, but I do try to give them the tools that they were denied. Because essentially, no matter how hardcore they are, they're effectively their victims. They're all victims of the same bullshit, of the same passed down cultural bullshit. Yeah. And so when it took that kind of change in my own mind, is you're not talking with someone who is the perpetrator. You're talking with someone who is a perpetrator because they themselves were victimized. And so when we understand that we can come at that, I was victimized, they were victimized, we have common ground. Now the whole point is to try and help them to understand how they were victimized and what was taken from them. And so when we can kind of break that already, the foundation for these conversations is there. It's just a matter of, can we utilize that to build something better from there? And it's tough. It's stuff I've had some bad ones. I've had moments where I've behaved badly. You know, when I was debating Rad Vlad, and I got pissed when I was debating this other guy, like I had this formal debate with this dude, and I've gotten mad and I've yelled at people, and it's like because it's so. But you know, we're human.
Yeah. Yeah. There's one point I think where we can start to insert a lever and start to get some leverage, and that is that a lot of atheists too do not understand what religion actually does for a person psychologically. And one of the reasons I chose the name Answers in Atheism other than Answers in Genesis, you know, the lookalike, is that there are answers in atheism when you start to understand that this whole thing about rituals and prayer and giving yourself over to a higher power or things like that there is a psychological reason that is so powerful in human beings. I mean, that has an effect on our psychology. Right. And things like faith. Okay. I'm just a staunch hard atheist. I'm not an agnostic. I'm a hard atheist and hard naturalist, but I have great faith. And I always talk about faith. And when I talk to Christians about it, they always tell me, "Oh God, you're really a Christian. You just don't know it." It's because you can have all of those positive elements from religion and not believe in this bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody knows that. It's like the best kept secret ever that you can do things like even I always say I'm an atheist who prays. Okay, prayer is sort of a ritualistic something that you do in your mind or with your body or whatever. And it has a deep psychological effect on the rest of your day when you do that. It opens you up to a different, to different ideas. It opens you up to the universe. It relaxes your body. So it does things. So there's a whole bunch of religion that doesn't have to be thrown out with the bathwater.
Kind of like meditation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the examples that I often use is that that these things do have utility. That there is positive utility in some of these things. Like for example, if I get into a car accident and I'm trapped in my car, the firefighters are working to cut me out of it. If I, in that moment, if I pray or I meditate or I pray, say I pray, I calm myself down, I focus myself, I lower my blood pressure. I don't panic. I don't inadvertently hurt myself further in my panic. If I do this and then they cut me out of the car, it buys me time. They cut me out of the car and then they save my life. Was it the fact that I prayed? Did that save my life? Yes, because of the physiological utility of doing that action. Does that mean a God exists? No. So it's recognizing these things. I respect. Now, well, I would say I have a more contentious relationship with the word faith, because of the connotations it has with. It's also kind of like I have the same kind of contentious relationship with pantheism, because I think it's just unnecessary baggage. It's like bringing in, it's like, well, the universe itself is God. I'm not attributing anything to it. I'm just calling it that. It's like, then why call it that? Where I say, what we have is a very precise sliding scale of confidence. Is that confidence is either very high, it's in the middle, or it's very, very low. I have very low confidence that this thing is true. I have very high confidence this thing is true, because ultimately, from a philosophical perspective, all propositions are probabilistic. So we just know them to the likelihood of being true to a degree that it would be irrational to deny them until more evidence comes in. So when it comes to that, when we say faith, and I understand how you're using faith in that context, I would just find that you hear that Christians be like, "Oh, well, you're actually a Christian." And it's like, I don't want to conflate confidence or trust with faith in and of itself. Faith in the Hebrews kind of context of that. It's like, no, I have past experience. I've seen the experiences of others. I can compare notes with others, and I have a high confidence that this activity can have a positive utility. So I'm going to utilize it for its positive benefits, but I'm not acknowledging what you're acknowledging about. So I tend to fall on the fence of confidence is a better term. But like I said, I understand the context that you're using, and I kind of dig it because it does open up conversation opportunities, the ones that you can have. because they're like, oh, well, you actually have faith. It's like, well, let's break that down. Let's break it down what faith means, and so I like that. I kind of dig how you approach that.
Yeah, faith for me is sort of falling back into the warm blanket of the universe, no matter what it gives you, and it's encapsulated. It's well said in a poem called "The Desiderata" that the universe is unfolding exactly as it should. I'm doing a short 7-minute video at 4 p.m. on my channel where I'm talking about. I had some recent, not horrible health news, but sort of health news that indicates that I might be facing my own mortality sooner than I thought, that sort of thing. And the whole point of it is that you can adopt an attitude of living that doesn't fight everything that's happening. Right. And you can oh, well, so this is the new plan. When you get some news, it's like, oh, new plan. Find out my arteries are hardening a little bit. It's like, new plan. I might not be around that long. And those things are really important to human beings trying to basically, as they put it, find meaning and all of this crap. It's all there for the atheists. And in fact, if you're a real strong naturalist and you really understand science and what is going on right now with biology and with the cosmos, how complex it is, you can find more meaning than you'll know what to do with. It's incredible. It's just absolutely incredible. And I'd like to give other people that without the belief. Yeah. Have you heard of Alan Watts?
Yes, I have. Yes.
Okay. A Buddhist, right? But I believe he was a secular Buddhist. And I read everything he ever wrote back when I was a teenager. And the interesting thing is he said that belief was the opposite of faith. That if you believed in something, you couldn't have faith. That faith is shutting your mind off and just living without belief. Because belief is about grasping, hanging on to something, hanging on to an idea, an ideology. And you can live in a much more peaceful manner by just letting go and just letting it flow. And that's something that a lot of people miss in Alan Watts' many books that he wrote. And anyway, so that's kind of my blurb.
I agree with that. I know that for some people out there who are struggling with the idea, who may be in a faith or whatever, but the deconstruction, the deconversion process is deeply empowering. And one thing that was the big thing in my deconversion that really got me was, and this may be terrifying for some people who are going through this, but when I was deconverting it, and I knew that I was an atheist, and that I was like, this is what my world, this is what my non-theistic world, like that. It suddenly hit me one day like an epiphany.
Okay.
That the full responsibility of my life. So all of my not only all of my actions, but all of my inactions, I am responsible for. And then suddenly the recognition of that, it suddenly made me go back and look at my life as I had been living it. And I realized all the opportunities I had that I was responsible for, that I eschewed that responsibility because of what I believed. Because I was given reasons to eschew that responsibility. Either it's in God's hands, God has a plan, God works in mysterious ways, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I had all these excuses that religion gave me for not taking action in my life.
Right.
And I'm like, and suddenly the full weight of both my actions and my inactions kind of fell on me. And it damn near sent me running straight back to my faith because I almost couldn't handle that. It was like the level of accountability, the level of responsibility that I had. And it was kind of like, what do I do with this? It's like, and then you realize the failures in your past, and you're like, then you suddenly see the world in a different way, and you're kind of like, and you don't know how to deal with it. Fortunately, I was able to get through that and recognize that now that I'm aware of that, I am empowered to do things in my community that normally I would have passed off to a God figure, or, recognize where I'm needed and when I'm needed, and to go and do those things. So it empowered me to take more control of my life, and ostensibly made me a better person because now I'm involved. I'm involved in my community. I'm involved in people's lives. But I don't force myself into people's lives. I'm not intrusive. It allowed me to understand boundaries better. It allowed me to understand my interpersonal relationships better. You know,
Yeah.
it's like fundamentally my life became leagues better when I became an atheist and recognized this thing. I mean, I wouldn't have the life I built if it wasn't for that, which is wild to me. So it's empowering. It truly is.
Yeah, and the thing is that it's empowering in the now, like today, right now, what you are now. Like all of my, like I always say, I'm really happy that that I'm an alcoholic and a drug addict, and that I went through all that I went through, and that includes doing all the crappy things I did to other people. I have to become completely okay with that, accept complete responsibility for that, but not regret the past. Not try to reach out and wish, oh, I wish I could have done that. I wish I could have done that. No, that's not the point. The point is what I do right now, today, here forward.
Atheism lets you make the now important.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, because that's all we got. And that thing about responsibility, but there's responsibility, then there's regret, there's shame, there's guilt, all of that. All of that has to be dealt with in a healthy manner that brings you into your present, makes the person you are. And at some point you have to realize, had I not done something shitty in the past, I wouldn't be today empowered to not do it again. Right. In a lot of ways. And that's kind of what that, you guys were talking about AA before, but that's what that whole process is about, is accepting that responsibility, writing it down, admitting it to yourself, to the universe and another person, and then basically saying, okay, I am sorry. I will not do this again to you, that sort of thing. And
where you are is a result of the road you chose to walk.
Right. We're always in the moment. And then the other thing that I have been learning in my my agedness, right, is not to keep betting everything on the future, not to keep I don't drag the past in, other than to illuminate my present. It's the same thing with the future. I'm not going to count on, oh gee, if I die in 5 years, how many Hershey's candy bars and bags of chips am I going to miss out on? That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Eat a candy bar. If you want a candy bar, eat it now and enjoy the goddamn thing. Quit thinking about all the candy bars you're going to have in the future. It doesn't make any sense, right?
I don't know. There's going to be a point where I will never enjoy another sushi boat, and that's kind of sad. That kind of makes me sad.
Maybe.
Like, because I love me a good California roll or a good volcano roll, and there'll be a point where there will be the last volcano roll I'll ever eat. And it's kind of like, so that means I have to eat volcano rolls all the time, right? No,
right.
That's not justification for that. But nonetheless, but I like that idea. But I like that idea. Yeah, instead of focusing on the here and now, focusing on what's going on in the present. That's very, very important.
Yeah.
So this thing right now is important. After, we're not in control of that. So stop. This is not a way station, to get to there. Because when you reduce this experience to nothing more than a midpoint, like nothing more than a save point before the next stage, when you reduce this experience, then you invariably reduce the people within that experience, the relationships within that experience, and everything, including yourself and your own identity. You reduce that to nothing because that is what we're looking forward to, and that's the trap that people fall into.
Yeah.
Between atheism and sobriety, I've found that I enjoy every moment of my life, including the bad ones, which doesn't make sense on the face of it, I don't guess. But even whenever I have bad times, I still have a lot of thankfulness for being alive and able to experience those bad times and learn from them. So I value every experience now. And that's, I always say atheism saved my life, which is, again, a weird thing to say when atheism is just, this simple thing. But there's a lot more that goes into it because it changes you and your perspective on the world around you and the people in it. And,
the absolute magical thing is when you stop living in the past and in the future, all of a sudden you're in the now, and all of a sudden you say, okay, I'm all right. How are you doing? and you start thinking about people around you, and you get more involved with everybody around you and more concerned with how other people are doing rather than yourself. And it's a really odd thing. You'd think that living in the moment, you'd be like totally selfish, but it's just the opposite. You tend to expand.
You become the social species that you're
designed to be, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I was reading about that this morning in a book about the socialization and how deeply it's built in. They had this one researcher decided to give ecstasy to lobsters, or not to octopus, or to an octopus, right? And she didn't think it would have any effect on it, but because an octopus is a real solitary individual. It doesn't like other octopuses, right? It pushes them away and it gets rid of them. The goddamn thing came and give the other octopus like a full 8-legged hug, and it started dancing like it was at a rave. And then she did a little further research and found out that the same mechanisms that were involved in our socialization were actually went all the way back like 500 million years, where it started to evolve. And it was really a cool discussion. But I mean, it's like, can you imagine this octopus hugging other octopus? The other octopus.
You can see the octopus. The octopus is like, it's on. It's like, oh, it's like you ever feel the coral, man?
Yeah,
just feel the coral.
Yeah, and the other octopus was like, "Get the hell off me, dude! What do you want?
You see how many suckers I've got, dude? Dude,
yeah."
You ever just admire like the sea floor, man? It's like soft, but it's not.
Are you still there, Al?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you pretty good. What's up with you today, Al?
Oh, I'm out on the bike, but I just got home.
Yeah.
So I've just been listening to this. I found very interesting some of the things that were being said earlier. I missed a little bit, but I was listening on my way over to the store, and I thought I'd just join in when I saw you put the link up, because I found this week I was having an argument on a chat with somebody who'd posted a video saying that atheists have faith and they just don't know it because they haven't read the dictionary and that kind of nonsense. And I'm totally with the idea that you can use the word faith and mean something different, but he was diving into this whole I forget who wrote that book, the one I don't have enough faith to be an atheist.
That was Turek.
Turek, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So he was kind of like bringing this concept back up and saying, like you just it's just wrong to say that you don't have faith because he looked up some other definitions in the dictionary, and I'm okay with the fact that there's more than one meaning for a word. I'm just not okay with changing the meaning of what I was using the word for when I said something.
Right. Yeah.
And I was trying to point that out to them. It's not that there isn't another meaning. It's just that changing it because
multiple ones.
Yeah.
The idea that words are polysemous tends to like slip by these guys. Is like there's contextual definitions are a freaking thing, and they don't all just because it means a thing to you does not mean it means the same thing to me.
Yeah, I'm a strong advocate of taking some of those words back from the overly religious, and basically, because they're words that mean something to human beings and always have, and they do across all religions, all ideologies. And I'll be goddamned if I'm an atheist, I'm going to use the words. I'm going to use them to mean what I mean, right?
Yeah, no, it's only frustrating when they throw it back at you that you've done you've done something wrong by saying something that you actually mean, and then have them turn it around on you. And I only argued with the person only to say that it's not a problem that we work together to come up with this definition for the word and use it together at the same time. But it is wrong to change what I meant when you know full well what I meant, and you're just doing this to. And I my argument was basically, you're obviously not talking to me. You're talking to the people that you hope will follow you or continue to follow you, because they're already on your side. You're not. If you were talking to me, then you'd be trying to speak in the same language I'm using. instead of trying to convince people that my language is just wrong and that I'm wrong right from the outset because I don't know how a dictionary works.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah. I gave a talk at an AA meeting once, and a guy came up to me, a Christian, afterwards, and hugged me and said, "Oh my God, you've restored my faith in God." And I had to tell the poor son of a bitch that I was an atheist, and then he looked all confused. And I was hoping it would open a conversation, right? It's because I was talking about things like faith and stuff, and I saw, I sounded like I believed in something, and I certainly do believe in something. Believe in this.
Yeah.
It's like,
Anyway. They can't fathom it. It doesn't ever enter their mind that they may be wrong. So they are unable to even look at it from that perspective. Now, when you get into people like Frank Turek, though, there's a lot of dishonesty going on.
Oh yeah.
Burden shifting is his whole shtick. I mean,
Turek is a dishonest piece of shit. Just like he's up there with Eric Hovind and a number of other idiots. He's like, it's beyond. So I wish it's the fruit is scraping the ground on that, and I wish that Eric Hovind content did not like get the most views on my channel, because I don't want to sit through Eric Hovind's bullshit. It's so cringe. But it is what it is.
Yeah, we all bow to the algorithm at the end of the day, right?
Oh yeah. And those are the people that, and I appreciated all the points here about trying to open up a conversation and have one.
Yeah.
But some of those people are not reachable. I think the only reason to dissect their words is to try and get through to the people that are on the fence, as they say, and to try and gather some people to understand that, what they've been told about, and I'll say our side, even though we're not necessarily unified by a whole lot other than, maybe one or two major points. And in some ways we may be unified on, dozens or 100 or 1,000 points, but it's just that, like, they seem to be telling people what to think, and how to think it. And we're just trying to really, I think, as a whole, we're trying to ask people just to think and do it for themselves. And that difference is stark when you listen to what they say about us. And my major point in any conversation I'm having is to try and bridge those gaps. And I really appreciate that's what this conversation has been about. But I also know that, a lot of the stuff that I do is when someone's a total asshole, I call them out on it, and I tend to then rake them over the coals in my terrible, terrible song, sung by the worst singer in the world, which is me.
Well,
but
Christianity is custom designed. Like, if you are a hateful asshole, Christianity is the perfect way to be a hateful asshole and justify it to yourself and those around you. And so you're going to have, so assholes are going to gravitate toward it too, but not all of them are assholes. So
no, and some of them are damn proud of it too.
I know. Yeah. It's like God on my side.
Religion is all about exclusion.
About what? Exclusion?
Exclusion, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Religion wants to take the congregation, the ones that have faith in that particular flavor of religion, and tell them that they have the truth and they know the right way, and they can look at all these other people and they're not following the right thing, and they're not doing what you're doing to get what you're going to get as a reward for listening to whatever flavor again. And that's really where it all falls apart, because that's not you don't talk from a point of love and things, and then at the same time try to exclude as many people as you can. And that's why it's split into 40,000 denominations, and we have the things that we see now, and whereas atheism and some of these other causes, especially in activism, are all about inclusion. And so you have two things that are that have goals that are completely in opposite directions, and sometimes they try to talk past each other in that, you know, when I approach a theist in an argument, it's almost a militant thing for me, because it's like, I'm going to attack this person's ideas, not to change their mind, but in order that maybe somebody in the audience is going to see that this guy is full of shit and not continue to believe in the stupid things that they're saying. And so while that may be a more aggressive approach than I should take, or than what some people take, you know, that's just my feeling about it, of what I'm trying to achieve, you know? So
another attitude that I like to adopt is that when I attack another person's belief, I'm not doing it necessarily to change their mind or prove them wrong. Sometimes I'm doing it to find out if they have anything that may change my mind. Conversation opens. I want to be damn sure that I'm not doing the same thing that I think they're doing.
Right.
And I've learned plenty from theists. You know, not always bad things either. I've learned things I didn't know that different denominations or religions believe, and I think that the believer is not the bad thing about this. Sure, it's logs on the fire or whatever, but in many cases, the believer is just an indoctrinated person that wants to do good, and so you know, it just reinforces the point of attack the idea, not the person. And you know, that just from my experience, I'm just rambling, but
I like those kinds of believers. I mean, there are some believers that you just automatically can tell that they mean well, that they mean really well, that they're just, you know, that they're compassionate and they really care. And I gravitate to those types of people.
Sure. So we've went on for 2 hours here, and JL has been an excellent sport to come and hang out with us and talk with everybody, and I truly appreciate it. You've been a great guest, and I've had much fun doing this show.
Oh, don't tell me JL is going to suck out on us now. You're wrong. I thought you were a professional, JL, with that beard.
He said he was in it for the long haul.
I'll go as if there are people in the live chat that have questions, or there's especially if there's a theist around.
JL, you do not want to say that in this stream, because even if Joe leaves, sometimes I have a tendency to keep the stream going. And one night it went over 9 hours just so I could get him to 600 subscribers.
Nice.
I have to get out of here, guys. I got stuff I have stuff to do.
Well, thanks for coming, Mike, and I'll come check you out at 4 o'clock on Answers in Atheism.
Yeah, see what you think of that. I'm trying something new, just turning the camera on and blabbing in the morning. We'll see if it makes any damn sense. But anyway, okay, thank you guys. We'll see you.
Thank you, bud. Good to meet you.
Bye.
Yep.
So yeah, like I say, if there's people out there who want to have conversasations, or there's a theist out there that has questions or is curious about something like that, I love having those conversations. So, you know, any opportunity to have that conversation is a good one.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, you know, normalizing the atheist community to the point that these labels and the negative connotations and stuff don't come to mind to those who aren't in it necessarily. Is a big part of this, and why we have to, even sometimes when it feels like a silly conversation, you know, have that talk and be as charitable as you can try to be without letting people misrepresent, you know, science and facts and all that stuff. So you know, it's a tough gig in that aspect sometimes, but it's well worth it, because what religion has done has had an overall negative effect on humanity. And if you care about your fellow human and you want what's best for mankind, I think you have to take a hard look at religion. I mean, it's been such a huge part of this. So I hate when apologists say things like, well, if you don't believe in God, why are you talking about, you know, religion all the time? And it's like, well,
yes,
that's what's going on in life. That's the culture that I've experienced. Like, why would I not talk about that?
Like legit, if Christianity is like, I've gotten the whole like, well, if you don't care about God, if you don't believe in God, then why do you talk about God so much? Or if you don't care about this, like, I don't see you talking about Islam or Buddhism or anything else as much as you talk about Christianity. It's like, yo, you're right. But Islam and Buddhism are not trying to, inform the legislation of this country that dictates how I live my life or how others live their lives. And the idea that people believe in God, that believe in this God, and they're trying to do these things. I don't talk about Judaism as much because Jews aren't trying to dictate how I live my life. They're not trying to like take over the government and replace it with a Judaic theocracy. If they were, I'd be talking about Judaism. If it was Islam, right, I'd be talking about Islam. I do talk about how Islam has a stranglehold on some nations out there and how they control their people. I have talked about that. Yep. But I live in America. So I live in America. If I lived in the UK, I'd probably talk about their immigration stuff and the racism and other things that go on in the UK. If I would lived in Australia, it would be issues that are pertinent to them. But I live in America, and that this is the topic du jour. So
and that's why I go on about young Earth creationists so often. I live in Eastern Kentucky. That's what's around me. That's what I was taught growing up. Those are the things that I experience, and I've done the same thing. I've talked with Muslims and talked about other things too, and why some of those things are bad ideas. But when it's left to me to find a subject to talk about, I'm going to talk about the one that I'm most familiar with, and I still talk out my ass half the time on that. So, but it is what it is, right? Trying to correct some of the misinformation that comes out of religion is a 24/7 job, and it takes all different perspectives and experiences to really talk about that and expose it for what it is. And I think YouTube and social media has been an excellent tool for atheists to become activists with no more than a webcam and a microphone. And right. I think it's a really great thing, and I love to see the community growing and working together to try and better the world around us. It's a great thing. But
to answer Ollieman's question, so he asked question for JL, when are you going to start running a D&D game for us? So I don't typically run D&D. The only game I've ever run is I ran a Rifts campaign for about 6 years, long time ago, and it was just a Rifts mercenary campaign. It's based off the Palladium system, developed by Kevin Ciambieta up in I think he's up in Michigan. So I love the Palladium system. I love how it anything can be converted to that system. I love the conversion rates to that, and so I ran a Rifts. I know that system better than I know D&D. Now I have run in D&D campaigns, but I myself have only ever DM'd a Rifts game because I just love that system and that environment to tell stories in. But I don't know if I have the time to run a game or even be a part of a campaign right now because I'm so busy. But one day I think that would be cool to do like a live stream where we're doing that. We could do it on, I could do it on YouTube and I could simulcast to Twitch and everything. But, I maybe one day. I just think just at this point right now, I'm just too busy. I had to fit it into the schedule because there's so much work that needs to go into that, and I want to make it a good story. Even though I have some good ones, my mercenary campaign was pretty badass. I mean, if you know Rifts and you know Palladium, we got our characters from level 1 to level 7 in the course of that, with the amount of experience necessary for that. It was a beast of a campaign, and really, really enjoyed playing that one. But yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that stuff is a lot of fun, and I wish I had, more time and patience to do it, but I have children, so
yeah. He's talking about Jason-Kobe. It was like Ollie mentioned I played Rifts and Palladium back in the
yourself.
Yeah, no doubt.
He said I played Rifts and Palladium back in the 80s. It's been around for a long time, and the Jason-Kobe's and Superheroes Unlimited. Also, you got TMNT and other strange. Just because interesting note about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is that they were created by Eastman and Laird, and then Palladium licensed that for their RPG game. And then Eastman and Laird then sold the merchandising rights to Mirage, and Mirage did the toys and also did the cartoon. So, but Palladium had their hands on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles before anybody else did. And so there's actually TMNT and other strangeness, and then you've got like there's a number of other like supplemental deals to the Palladium system. Robotech as well. Robotech is goes back to Palladium, so love this stuff. I've got Phase World. I've got all the I have all the books, all this. As a matter of fact, so check this out. 1 second.
Yeah. While he's doing that, Tim Bob, if there's some issue you need to discuss with me, the Kentucky Atheist at gmail.com is the address. I'm just catching the end of whatever happened in chat there. If there's an issue, though, you can sure message me and I'll talk to you about it.
So, for anybody curious, for any of the newer fans out there, this is an artwork that Kevin Ciambietta did for me and signed. So, this was something that Kevin did that I got. So, it's a deal. You may be familiar with this image, but it's signed by Kevin, and he thanked me. My name is on there, but yeah, that's one of the things hanging on my wall. Is deal. This was something cool that I got. I'm a huge Palladium fan, like a big Palladium fan.
Hold it closer to the camera, real quick, if you can.
So yeah, if you can see.
Yeah. Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, and it's got it's got representatives from all of the
nice.
From all the different deals they have on there. So it's a big fan of this one. So yeah, I'm a big Palladium fan. All my books are out in the living room on my bookshelf. So, but yeah. Yeah, I'm a pack rat. I got all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's too much of a pain. I showed I Killed Earl, but I've got a 2001 Launch Team Xbox in my collection over here that's silk screen autographed by Bill Gates. So they made like 150 of them. And
I might have missed this, JL. Have you ever actually walked through and like did a video of everything you've got or stuff you've got? Or
I did, yeah. There's a short video where I walked through my entire office and just to look at everything and what I've got and see all the cool stuff because my office was turning into kind of a museum.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. There's so much there you can't hardly tell on some stuff. And I bet you there's stuff there that somebody's going to be like, "Holy fuck!" Just like Jason. God, he's got Jason back there. You just can't get the sword or the machete out of his hand. I'll just cut his fucking hand off. I got that machete. But
so it's like from what you can see here. So like that right there is the H.P. Lovecraft canvas that my wife got me. So because I'm a H.P. Lovecraft, I'm a big fan of that, as you can tell, because I've got like the Yellow King sitting here beside my desk, and which Richard Chambers. I know it's Richard Chambers, Haster, and all that other stuff. But then I've got the Apocalypse trilogy posters, which is The Thing, and then of course In the Mouth of Madness and Prince of Darkness, because I'm a huge Carpenter fan, not to mention Christine is hanging right there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Big Trouble in Little China is over there. So I got those. Then I've got that all pretty much surrounded by all the autographs I've collected, Savini and Ron Perlman and all kinds of stuff. The glass cases here, because I collect dragons from all around the world, because I like dragons and kind of a fantasy like that. So, but I've collected dragons from all around the world. So that's my dragon collection, and that's my dragon collection, are all in those glass cases. Up top is the balaclava and the Irish cap that Irish Demon sent me from. So I've got that. So, but I put it on a balaclava as a kind of a joke for him. The IRA.
Because I would probably spend $80 just to go through what you've got right there, opposed to going through that art. To be honest.
In between that is the Hellraiser cube. Is a cube from Hellraiser. Is the lament configuration.
Is it the one that actually moves?
Yeah, it does actually. Configure.
He had it on a stream once.
Right.
Messing with it. I loved it.
And
I love Hellraiser.
Behind that is the globe. Is the globe that my grandfather used when he was back in the Navy, and when he was so that globe is from back in the 60s. I think it was. Nice. And so some of the countries that are on there don't exist anymore. So it's kind of cool, that cool layout.
Yeah.
The gizmo that's sitting up there, that's a gizmo from 1984. So that was with the original line of gizmos that released when the movie came out. And my wife found it for me, and she was like, "Look what I found." And I was like, "This is an original. This is an original gizmo." So it was like, bam, he's right there. And of course, Jason,
got a Mogwai.
If you look really carefully, like right there is the Master Chief helmet from the Halo, from the legendary collector's edition. So I got that, and a number of others. And then of course the Irish hat. You can't really see it from there, but let me go up a little bit. So that right there is the license plate from Jeepers Creepers, autographed by Jonathan Breck. And that's an original artwork from one of Johnny O's daughters. It's an excellent dragon drawing that she did. And so that's going to be famous one day. That's a Jason Mask autographed by CJ Graham. And that's a dragon wood carving that was given to me by this lovely Mexican lady who does handcrafted wood carvings like that. So she made me that. That's the Irish. That's the Aussie hat that Irish Demon sent me, and that's the slate from the very first film that I ever did, the very first film I ever did, and that's a boomerang that Irish Demon sent me. So all kinds of stuff all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah. I thought that one was a Freddy Krueger hat there.
And then I got the mat down there with the Mount Rushmore of horror icons. Like my dogs like to come in here and lay down on that, and so just all kinds of. Then you can see like the Terrifier and Jeepers Creepers and all there's Tom Atkins autograph up there. Savini's down there, and a bunch of others. There's Norman Reedus and there's Kane. There's Robert Englund. There's Robert Englund as Freddy, and so you can see all the individuals that are in there. But I did a video where I walked through all this stuff to kind of describe it all. Neat. And there's other stuff you can't see, like my gaming stack is all right here. This is my gaming stack, and so that's all of like the special stuff I've collected in game for gaming. And then
when's the next sleepover, JL? We're on our way,
right? And then of course stuff like like my Stan Lee autograph.
I hate you, JL.
Got that there, and
is it okay if I kick JL off?
JL can take my place and be the new co-host.
Okay, I can deal with that then. Anyway, how you doing, JL? You're the co-host. I'll be your furniture. You got neater shit than he's got.
I'll a lifetime of just collecting shit that just stuff that I like. I was like, ooh, I like that, and I'm gonna keep that. And this is just a fraction of it. There's shit in the garage that is in storage. There's shit out in the living room that is on the bookshelves, and all kinds of
NASCAR shit too. Oh my god!
Yeah, I was big into Star Trek models for a while, and Nintendo amiibos. I was into that for a minute. But yeah. I don't everything I had, like Star Wars stuff, like my Yoda stuff and everything, my kids co-opted and
Yoda, that's
destroyed. But
and this is kind of like why I like doing these, and this is like when me and Joe talk about it, what our kind of end goal is for each one, and for me and Joe, and this is what I think why me and Joe work well together, because there's aspects he sees that I don't and vice versa, but once we talk, it's kind of like, oh, wait, that makes sense. Because, I mean, not only do I care about, like JL, the creator, or, but the person.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
And I love, we're also going to find that we just had a little mini tour of JL's dungeon.
Well, a lot of people want to come on, and it's completely fine. I get it. It's valuable information and talk deconversion stories and things like that. And I really try to dig and meet the person for, so the audience doesn't just, because when you're in creator mode and doing your thing, you're focused on that. And you do a lot of interacting with, the community and stuff anyway. But, it's nice to get in. We talk about the issues and the things that are going on, but to actually talk a little bit about the person too. I love
JJ just nailed it. I absolutely love when I learned about mutual passions, or even passions you didn't know someone else had, something you're passionate about.
Gives you a whole new perspective on then watching the stuff that person does, because you know where they're coming from. Like,
and I think that's why I love the trivia night. Not that I don't like the Sundays and the Mondays and whatever else comes, but the Wednesday is kind of like almost like an unspoken rule, no religion, but we still dabble in it. If something would
we're about to make trivia badass too, aren't we?
Yes,
it's about to be nice.
Once he learns me how to do all this shit, we're working on it.
We do on Wednesdays. We do a completely secular. We don't talk religion or anything. It's just trivia. Right. People can unwind, and the community can hang out. Anybody's welcome,
and vice versa, and
it's a lot of fun.
And here's a test. Let's see how well everybody does on this trivia question. What was the very first trivia question that we had when I started trivia? And it was an easy question, but it just tells you who knows what's what. If it may not
I'd have to go back and watch the video.
Well, it was a very who always pops in and out of my videos on trivia, even here usually.
Yeah.
You know, the pup.
Michael?
No, the pup.
Oh, Jack's ass.
Well, yeah, that too. You know, literally. That was the first question. What's the name of my pup? And everybody knew it.
Yeah.
You know, matter of fact, the trivia in general came up with his middle name because, you know, I was going to do Jack Off Black is his name. He's all black, pretty much. And then it is, what is it? Jack. Oh, fuck. Tenacious D Black. And I'd have never thought about that, but I love it for some reason. You know, it doesn't really necessarily flow, but I love it. So no, that's his full name. And that's part of the, you know, the trivia. But then you learn stuff like with Michael N. He's my Googler. He's co-hosted with me. I usually open it up, and you know, anybody that wants to jump on that, you know, can be a, you know, sort of thing. But everybody knows about, you know, and then because I remember every time, you know, Earl's in there. Oh, Puppers! It's Puppers. He doesn't even have a name. It's just Puppers. But I love those personal details that you're never going to learn any other place, except in the more casual. And you're not in that, I got to defend the non-faith or the faith mode, and you're just people. Just like
speaking of Jack, I killed it all. Just said Jack Black. Yeah, Jack Black is amazing. Jack Black. Fun fact: Jack Black is the anti-Emil Hirsch. So for those who do not know what I'm talking about, look at a picture of Jack Black and look at a picture of Emil Hirsch, and you'll see that how shockingly similar the two of them are. But Emil Hirsch is a piece of shit, and Jack Black is literally an international treasure. So he's the anti-Emil Hirsch.
Yeah.
So I just learned that.
I think that because everybody's like, name your dog Blackjack, or Blackjack. And somebody's like, no, that just popped in there. Why not just Jack Black?
Nice.
You know,
I always think every time I hear Jack Black, I think rocket sauce, all of my fucking rocket sauce.
And now the joke at our house is my mom is prejudiced. And she's like, well, why am I prejudiced? I said, because Jack is black. You don't like black dogs. That's the reason you're yelling at that dog. Meanwhile, the dog's got, you know, her shoe halfway down his throat because he's chewing on it. I mean, he's not even quite 9 months, but yeah, he's better start listening because she's about done with him. Probably with me too, because
well, real quick, and we'll wrap this up. I'll tell you, you know, what's going on. So tomorrow, I've got a fairly new creator that I've talked to and really like some of the stuff he's doing and the things he says. Kim Regic will be on, and then next Sunday, we've got pop artist Steven Salyers coming on from Nashville to tell us a little bit about his experiences with Hillsong Church and religion in general. That'll be a really interesting topic. Yeah. Steven's a great guy. We'll have a lot of fun with that. Stephanie Helms is going to come on, and we're going to talk about other religions and things a little bit. And, of course, I want to start pushing the fact that when Aaron Raw comes on the 19th next month, that we're going to give away some of his books. And I'm working on getting those books and everything. And all you have to do is be a subscriber and show up to the show. And you'll have a chance to win an Aaron Raw book. And
I'm going to finish up this month and next month of who we've got coming, then just so everybody knows, again, if you don't mind, Joe.
Yeah, go ahead.
But the 28th, then we'll have BS Doofus, or Lewis. I say Doofus. Everybody should know that by now. Then we'll have MM stop by Monday night, which might be a special deal. There might be 2 or 3 of us up there, but I think Robin will probably lead that one if she still can, just because Robin introduced us to MM sort of thing. Then in May. What's the same one? The 5th we'll have Michael Bell on. Can't wait for that one. The 13th, which is going to be the Monday, will be Matt Dillahunty. We have nobody scheduled for Mama's Day, but I don't know if that was intentional or if we just.
My mom's going to come on and talk to us.
Oh, you did that. That's right. Yeah, that's why that was open. Aaron. God damn, I hate when I do that. Aaron will be here Sunday, the 19th of May.
Yeah, awesome.
Where Joe will act like a little schoolgirl.
I might.
And I'm sure I will too. nobody yet for that Monday. And then for actually now I'm thinking if anybody wants to come on for the 26th of May, it's actually open, which is the day before Memorial Day. So I don't know if Joe wants to try to get something or not, but that's
We pack them in, put on as many as you can. We'll talk to everybody.
that's why I said, that's why I said I talked to MM and I was going to have her come on Mother's Day, but it's like, oh, she's a mom, but she's really not doing anything anyway. But then we decided on the 26th.
Yeah.
Plus, I was trying to get MM on a Monday because it's more, probably, be better for what her.
That's going to be an interesting talk with a theist, I think.
Right.
Misty Maud has a perspective that I don't think a lot of theists share. And she's really open to conversation and talking about things. And I'm really interested to see where that talk goes.
And the one thing I have yet to see MM ever say to anybody yet is you're going to hell or any kind of threat, or even joking around that way. Which I'm sure she believes in hell, but she's not a hardcore militant where, that's going to be the one thing when she comes on. We're going to ask everybody, please, she's a friend of the channel. Everybody knows her. You can ask her questions. She's not scared. But just to be respectful in that, because like I said, she's a friend of the channel and enjoy having her around with everybody else, to be honest. Yeah. And hopefully we can keep getting, a few more and more theists on just to have chats about, normal stuff and religion if we have to.
Sure. But
and if anybody out there, would like to come on, even especially I'd say a Monday show, just to get on, everybody's going to want to hear what you got to say, regardless if you think so or not.
If you want to come on and talk to us, we will make time to talk to you.
Right. And it doesn't, especially on the Mondays, it doesn't even have to be religion. But all about, and I keep saying this, get to know each other. I mean, we hang out so much together. I go into JL's or catch one of his, videos, after the fact, but to get to, just to learn a little bit like I did today, man, was great. Cause I mean, this was kind of like my, Matt Dillahunty. Cause I just loved, like I said earlier, just the way JL is. And I mean, a lot of,
thank you, dude. Appreciate that.
But that's, that's all I kept talking to Joe about is I can't wait on this. And he's like, and of course, once again, Joe's like, no, what's his name again? JL.
There's so many channels I've found through doing this, and I love it. It's so many people putting out great content that I'm still discovering. And and
if anybody has any ideas or come up across even atheist creators that you think we need to check out, because that's the one thing I was going to ask you, Joe, is actually create a new creator section so people can put it in there and people can check out stuff if they're looking for something new.
Yeah, definitely. Brandon over at Mindshift is doing really good work.
I am half a step of being able to get him. It's just scheduling a day.
Yeah. Right.
The last time I talked to him was like maybe a month ago, and his spring is kind of full. But I just sent him another one saying, hey, June or July is open for us.
That's somebody that really knows this angle.
Because I've supported him for I want to say 12 or 13 months also. As Patreon.
Yeah.
I've talked to him before, even before he hit it really, really big. And, he's always open for suggestions.
Yeah.
But he's agreed to just trying to find a time. And
he's a great person to have on and just let him talk.
Right. JL. I mean, honestly, a lot of the people we've had, we could have literally just sit back, let you guys done your due. Yeah. And we even had a thing where somebody came to me and said, hey, you guys need to let your guests go a little bit longer without. And it's like, oh, whatever. And I went back and kind of looked at it, and it's like, oh my God, me and Joe suck as interviewers. You get so excited.
I get so into talking to people, and how you get to know someone is by, talking about the things you have in common, and then going from there. So I get on that sometimes, and I'm bad at rambling.
Yeah. Any suggestions? Anybody? And there's another one I was just getting ready to say. I'm trying to get a hold of Sage and having him come back on for a Monday. I keep talking about it. I just keep forgetting. Sorry, Sage. Not that you're not, but you're coming on. We love having you here. Sort of.
All right. So that's everything I can imagine we could possibly announce. Again, don't make me bring out the bonk stick. Yeah. Again, thanks, JL, for stopping by, and everybody stay tuned for all those great guests coming up, and go like and subscribe everything JL has. Go check out his channel and support him. He's doing great stuff over there. Everything's in the description. No reason for you not to do it. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.